p.m. That alert finally going out on phones for some clarity here. There had been some confusion throughout the day. Santa Monica was saying theirs is 4 p.m. That's the area you're looking at right now. Other cities as well, Culver City, Beverly Hills. So now we have that countywide. It's a definite 6 p.m. and I think people are getting the information on their phones and glad to have that. So now we have that.
Expecting soon we're going to have a conversation with Congresswoman Karen Bass, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and get some of her thoughts on the sort of systemic problems that were the foundation of this protest and where this has gone as well. As we look at the live pictures from the streets of Santa Monica, this is where police used water canyons, and now we're going to go to Santa Monica and listen in.
Santa Monica. Today is a devastating day for our city. An unlawful assembly has been declared, and we have had a curfew in place. At this point, our priority is to protect the safety of the members of the public. We are telling everyone to go home. Tomorrow, we start our recovery. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief of Police, Cynthia Renaud.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for a few minutes. I just wanted to reiterate that the City of Santa Monica and the Santa Monica Police Department is here to support peaceful protests, but will not stand for civil unrest and criminal behavior. The Santa Monica Police Department, in coordination with our area law enforcement partners, are actively working in the city. There is a curfew in place. We are asking you to go home, and those who don't, we will begin notifying and making arrests for the curfew violation. Our intent here and our primary goal is to keep everyone safe.
Hello, I'm Deputy Chief Judah Mitchell, and on behalf of the Santa Monica Fire Department, we have resources deployed throughout the city with the #1 goal to protect life and property. As this is a dynamic situation, and we'd like to remind everybody to please follow the 4 p.m. curfew. And lastly, if you remember, do not overburden the 911 system. Only call for life-threatening emergencies.
Buenas tardes. Hoy voy a hacer esta entrevista en español para la gente español. Yo quiero desearles a la comunidad de Santa Mónica, de Los Ángeles, a todos afectados de estas acciones de mucha gente que estamos sentidos con ustedes.
You have Santa Monica issuing fairly brief statements there from the Chief of Police and from the Fire Department, just reiterating the fact that they do have a curfew that is in effect right now at 4 p.m. and they will be making arrests. So for anybody who didn't get the information before, they have now put that out on probably all of the local TV stations to let you know that they will be making arrests. So we're going to stay with this picture here, and if they come back and take questions, we'll try to get to those. The Chief of Police, though, Alex, not really saying too much.
No, I mean, it's a pretty simple message, I guess, what they want to put out there, which is go home, enough. They're done with this. We'll see, though, in terms of the enforcement challenges of that in the hours ahead. And if this has been this crazy during the daylight hours, you wonder about what happens in our community when darkness falls tonight.
Well, we did have the chief on with us by phone, talking with Alex and myself here earlier today.
It appears like they will not be taking any questions.
Well, like you said, message sent, enough said. We did have the chief on phone, and we could ask a couple of the questions that you might be having, especially if you live in Santa Monica, as to why perhaps you didn't see a scene like this with this show of force sooner, with this effort to disperse the looters sooner, with the call for the National Guard to move into place sooner.
And her answer was, we were doing the best we could, but there's a lot of different problems out there.
And took time to mobilize them.
Yeah, Christina Gonzalez is in downtown Los Angeles. We haven't checked in with that area in a while. What's it looking like there?
Well, let me give you a visual here. So we are in front of City Hall. On my right, you have police department, police officers are in the back, but you also see large contingent of National Guard backing them up. Now, as we go to the left, you can still see that there is a crowd. Now, a lot of these people did move out. Watch out, Dave, you've got a step there. I'm giving directions to my camera person. As you can see, that the crowd has gotten smaller from when they were marching, probably by half, as the word has gotten out that the curfew has been moved to 6 p.m. But this is a crowd that is diehard, as it were. Some of them are not saying they're not going to move. They just haven't decided yet, to be honest with you. I do think a lot of people will move as it gets closer to 6. You can see that some of these people here are leaving. But again, this is now what we would call the diehard crowd, and some of them are saying they may not leave at 6. We'll see. But with that said, everything has been very peaceful. People have been very courteous to one another. We haven't had any problems. There's still some talk about what happened earlier in Pershing Square with that police car, but the heat of the moment seems to have calmed down quite a bit when they heard about the chief of police saying that he was going to investigate it. There's still a lot of ill feelings about it. You can see that the presence of police, let's show you them, David, over here. They are trying to stay actually as far back as possible and kind of give people a chance to be able to protest and do what they need to do, because again, this crowd has mostly been peaceful, little stuff here and there. But if you see, you still have about 100, 150, maybe 200 people. Some of them are a little bit angry, but not like what we have seen. There's definitely a sense of discussion, although now you see over here on the right, these women are having a discussion. They're screaming out at the officer. And the officers have shown an incredible amount of restraint, I really have to say. I don't want to put my microphone over there because some of what they're saying is obscene language and I don't want to upset anybody. But they're pretty upset and they're making their point. And we have seen a lot of these things happening today. Here we go. Let me see if I can get my microphone, because I do think this woman is said she's college educated.
And that doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean shit to nobody.
Well, let's see if we can do this. We apologize for any words, but here's what they're saying.
My power is that I'm a fucking Afro-Latina.
All right. Well,
considering
I guess we tried.
But you get a sense of how much anger there is and how they're taking it. And we've seen a lot of these guys. We've seen a lot of these. It's very sad. It's very sad. With that said, it's been very peaceful. But I have to say, police showing a lot of restraint. We're going to stay here. We're going to see what happens when the curfew starts, and we'll let you know.
Christina,
back to you guys. We're in downtown Los Angeles, avoid the area.
Christina, when you mentioned something that happened with we'll get back to Christina in a little bit. Now we go back to Phil Schuman. This is in Santa Monica. Look at this store, a store I've shopped at myself. Roadrunner Sports.
Aftermath of a day of destruction in Santa Monica. Things have quieted down somewhat, but you see what's left behind. Roadrunner Sports. We're on 4th near Arizona. The Sheriff's Department's here supplementing Santa Monica PD. They are telling people on the sidewalks there is a 4 o'clock curfew, go home. Some people are paying attention, some people aren't. And Alex and Christine, you just see this, just the aftermath of the looting and the destruction and the vandalism here. This is just across the street and about 10 buildings up from where we saw that fire raging in the restaurant about a half an hour ago. This is sort of the epicenter of the destruction here, 4th in Santa Monica, 4th and Broadway. And the police are here, and 100 feet away from the police officers are people who are walking across the street with arms full of looted merchandise, brand new boxes and clothes still on hangers. The strategy at this point is just to hold the line where they are and let those people, I guess, leave with their merchandise. The Santa Monica police are here, the sheriffs are here, the fire department's here, the LAPD choppers overhead, and the police chief was on a short while ago encouraging people to go home, but like we saw yesterday, the people that need to hear the message aren't watching TV.
So Phil, you're saying that these guys are literally like walking with the box that they clearly just stole. They got no receipt. They're coming out, and the police are just watching them walk away?
Yeah, 100 feet in front of them. I mean, their arms are loaded with merchandise. I saw one woman with a bicycle, possibly homeless. She had so much in her arms and on stuffed into the baskets on her bike that she couldn't even handle it all. Look, here's people coming out of the garage with their arms full of merchandise. So, you know, it's a terrible day in Santa Monica. That's the simplest way to explain it. Now, there are still people on the streets. There's still people running in different directions. The sound, you hear the alarms from the stores that were broken into blaring. The fire's out, fortunately, and the worst of the looting seems to be over. But there's just still people like randomly walking across. Here we go. See people coming right out of the parking structure here, across from the Chase Bank on 4th, just south of Arizona. Look at the sidewalks, just littered with empty boxes, smashed glass, wooden hangers, clothes, random sneakers. Here we go, guys, with boxes of stuff. Wow. You know, and I got an email, Christine. You were talking about getting some information from some of your contacts. I got an email from a man who runs a real estate group here in Santa Monica, who's just devastated. Said, you know, they've spent years building up this area, working to make it successful, and now, you know, he said, I'm part of a smaller company that owns retail centers. Many of our business owners struggling to survive through the COVID closure. Wow. And they're bracing for the announcement that they're getting ready to reopen, and now they have to witness the stores being looted and vandalized. And after years of hard work, it's just gone. I'm not sure what store these people are getting all this merchandise from, but it must be the 3rd Street Promenade, which is just on the other side of this.
Phil, and do you get the sense
coming out with boxes full of merchandise?
Do you get the sense that
what store is that from? Your mother's.
No, it's a popular brand. Your mother's.
So there are 24 police officers half a block from here that are.
I guess they did something.
Wow. Yeah, that was a M80 or something like that. There's 24 police officers half a block from here, and these folks are just, you know, coming out of the 3rd Street Promenade with obviously stolen merchandise.
Do you get a sense, Phil, that these folks are coordinating with each other somehow via cell phone or anything? Like how do they know where to go?
No, I think they just follow in the crowds. Just random groups of people that are going from place to place, just following each other.
Phil,
yeah.
I'm back here with you guys. Phil, you
Go ahead.
talked about the business owner you talked to who said they had built up their business. I think the most heartbreaking thing for me is to think of the businesses that were providing jobs. That Wasteland store, if I believe I know this correct, that is a resale store, clothing store, and people work there. So if somebody can't go to work next week, tomorrow, how do they feed their families? How do they pay their rent? How do they go to the grocery store? And I think the looters are trying to perhaps send their message or get their moment, but the people that they're hurting are people that are probably very young, like them as well. Young people tend to work in some of these mom and pop retail stores or small businesses. And those are people who are not going to be able to have a paycheck if the business does even come back. We heard from Mario Ramirez on Melrose, where a businessman said, my dad owns this Doc Martin store. He's 81 years old. We couldn't afford insurance and stay in business. I've seen people tweet, hey, don't worry about the businesses. Right. There's insurance. That guy said, we didn't have the money for insurance. He goes, we've lost everything. Phil?
Well, Christine, you're making a very powerful point, but you're trying to sort of ask for a rational explanation for this type of behavior when we're seeing just anger and frustration boil over into lawlessness. So if you wanted to, you know, have a philosophical discussion with some of the looters about the implications of what they're doing, I guess that's for another time. They're hurting people, and they don't care. That's the simplest way to explain it.
It'll be an interesting psychological study after this, one that we've had before. you know, to hear from the young leaders would be so valuable right now, to hear from the voices, some of our radio station people, perhaps, some of our, that younger generation.
But who's the leader? Who's leading this? Where is the leadership? Right. That's the question. Where's our national leadership? Where's our state leadership? Where's the young people leading this? There is a leadership vacuum that is underway right here. And everybody, there's a communication vacuum.
Alex,
I mean, who's in charge right now?
Right, but at the same time that you say that, we've had nothing but the presence of our elected leaders having press conferences, pleading for people to go home. You've been on the phone with other elected officials, the mayor, the police chief, the Supervisor Hahn, Supervisor Barger. So our elected leaders are here and speaking out, but it doesn't seem like the message is getting through to the people who are doing the damage, right?
Well, I think, too, it's the voices that people listen to that I would like to hear from after this. We've been so focused right now on the breaking news nature of the visuals of what we're seeing, just trying to keep up with everything across our community. But there are younger voices that people listen to, and I've not had a chance to check in with some of them or to even check their tweets. But Leo Terrell was saying back in the day, families went to the church, perhaps, in the black community, and the church leader was the voice. But he seemed to think that in this generation, that's not who you follow. That's not really the leadership. But speaking of leadership, Congresswoman Karen Bass joining us by phone.
Yeah, no, she joins, I think she may be joining us via Skype. Okay. Congresswoman, I know we spoke just on Friday for The Issue Is, and we spoke about...
Say again?
Congresswoman, can you hear us?
You are or you aren't? Sorry.
So we're now listening to Phil. Hopefully we're going to get Congresswoman Bass ready for us and let us know. Congresswoman Karen Bass, can you hear us? Welcome. Good to talk with you.
I hear you. Thank you. Good to talk with you, too.
All right. Thank you very much. You know, we spoke just on Friday for our...
About it.
I believe so. That don't appear to be firefighters or police officers. So there's some in the crowd that are saying, hey, let's stop this and put that out. You know, one interesting thing I was thinking about what would happen today compared to yesterday, and thinking about, well, Sunday might be a little calmer, you know, and Sunday is a little more of a day that isn't, people aren't out quite as late because they're going to work on Monday, but it doesn't seem that that may be the case, and one of the reasons maybe is that, you know, that unemployment rate with the pandemic is so high. You know, it's not at 3%. It's probably, you know, by the time they compute it, over 10%. And that's a lot of people that, you know, aren't having to wake up tomorrow morning and go to work. And that could make a Sunday, you know, just as volatile as a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. We're going to check in now via Skype. We have Maria Salinas, the president and
It is really important to separate the criminal activity from the people who have legitimate grief. Now, those people who really are protesting that then resort to violence, you know, they are totally changing the subject and hurting the very cause that they say they believe in.
Congresswoman, you've been a member of the community of Los Angeles, in the trenches there, trying to make change and uplift. What do you make of the reason for the looting? What do you say about that?
Well, I mean, I really think that the looting is opportunist. I do think that there's a lot of people that feel economic desperation right now because they've lost their jobs. They're stealing stuff and then they're going to go sell it. And that's how they're going to survive. Now, it reminds me of 1992 when people also felt economic desperation. And I remember people stealing diapers and formula and things like that to survive. Trust me, I am not excusing it for 1 second. But I do think that there is just opportunity that is happening right now. And I think for people who don't really want to change police and policing America, they can just point to this and say, see, there's really no problem. These are just a bunch of criminals. And that's why it's heartbreaking. I have worked for years and years and years on police accountability, and I want the issue to stay focused there.
You know, we appreciate you taking time out of your night to speak out with us tonight. You are, of course, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, one of the most prominent African-American leaders in the entire country. We have not heard from the President of the United States today at all. We have not heard from the governor.
That's a good thing.
We have not heard from the governor of California at all today. Why do you say that it's a good thing that we haven't heard from the President?
We don't need to hear from the president. I mean, I hate to say that, but we don't, because I don't think in the last 3.5 years that you could point to one occasion when we have any type of conflict, especially a conflict involving people of color, that he has had one positive thing to say that has unified this nation. Just earlier, he talked about how MAGA people love black people, love African Americans. I mean, that's just downright offensive. He used language that he knows are triggers, are dog whistles, talking about looting and shooting, talking about bringing out dogs. He knows exactly what he's doing. And I heard that he might potentially address the nation, and I dread the day that he does that. I hope he doesn't. His attorney general, who's now decided they're going to focus on Antifa and call them a terrorist organization, as though that has anything at all to do with what's going on. He never criticizes white supremacists. He said when the thugs descended upon the State House in Michigan with assault weapons.
What we're seeing.
I can see the images.
Yeah, on the right is Long Beach, looting there. On the left is Santa Monica, where there is also looting. A Vons in Santa Monica, and we don't know what the business is here in Long Beach, but we've been seeing that all afternoon. As someone who is an advocate for business owners, large and small, how does this make you feel personally to see this?
Well, personally, obviously, it's very disturbing. But let me just say, first and foremost, the Los Angeles area Chamber of Commerce supports the right for peaceful protest. And this tragic death of Mr. George Floyd just shows the injustices that we face. But let's not confuse vandalism with peaceful demonstrations for systematic change.
Okay,
these are disturbing images.
We're going to have to interrupt you there. We have a camera down there in Long Beach. We're not sure what the business is that was being looted, but the police showed up. They've got tear gas, less than lethal weapons. A bunch. Did you see all the
There was a
just
rush of people flying out of this store, banging into the law enforcement. It really, the law enforcement, they were taken by surprise by everybody just dashing out, dashing around. I didn't see one person taken into custody.
No, but now at least they've got the store cleared, and they're standing guard outside the. There might be some. There's people inside still, and like they're trying to bust out through the boarded up, through the boards. Is that what that is?
I think that's exactly what it is. They're trying to get out, and those.
Look at that! Look at that! This is bizarre.
It's unreal. Look at those windows. People
They're trying to escape.
They're trying to escape. They might be taking.
Look at that!
Look at this.
This is insane. I cannot believe what I'm looking at. I don't know if there are officers inside the store trying to apprehend people, but there are officers that stood there outside the store as people fled. These are folks trying to flee. Look at that, still grabbing it. You know, now 50 feet away, not even from that, this guy that just grabbed up all those clothes, there's where these officers are. They're not arresting anybody at this point. And who are these people standing in between the looters and the police?
Now everyone's trying to take the plywood off.
Wow.
Those were
I've never seen that before.
Images.
Never seen that before.
Hearing that noise, at first you thought it was the non-lethal bullets at first, until you could tell it's knocking. Unreal.
Wow. I am just absolutely amazed at what I'm seeing. We saw, again, we were in the middle of an interview. We got Santa Monica police showing up to this store that had been boarded up, but it was being looted. They walked up to the entrance. A bunch of people fled out of the store. I'm sorry, Long Beach, excuse me. This is Long Beach, where a bunch of people just fled right out of the store. right past those officers. They didn't apprehend any of them, but they did basically stop more people from coming in. They stood guard in a ring outside that entrance, but clearly there were people still inside, and those people busted through the boarded up windows and glass, climbed over it, and fled. Some of them throwing the stuff that they had stolen
on the
and
ground and
grabbing
then
it
collecting it
and taking off.
Right. We don't know what this business is. Again, we obviously.
Yeah, if our cameraman can hear us, it's Urban Outfitters.
Oh, wow.
Urban Outfitters. Urban Outfitters got looted in the Fairfax district yesterday. So it's interesting that they seem to be going after the same sorts of stores. Well, this is the second Urban Outfitters
right, well,
in 24 hours that I know of.
It's the crime of opportunity. It's so big. Such a big store, has so much inside.
Unbelievable. Well, it continues, and at least we're seeing a police presence there, and there's an effort being made to stop the looting, if not to arrest the looters. But at least if somebody was planning to loot and then set a fire, they put a stop to that. And it's just an astounding thing to watch. Oh, it was a Cavalli designer suit warehouse that the people were in here that had been boarded up. We're going to transfer now. I've got David Ono just coming in.
Thank you, Mark. And Colleen, I'm joined by Veronica Miracle as we continue to make this transition. And it's an incredible site that you guys did an amazing job with. And it says so much about what our communities, multiple communities, are having to deal with in this crisis. So all day long, we had been seeing looting going on in Santa Monica, and there we go.
Look at this. Look at that.
These
They're
are
just
live
so
images
brazen. So
from
brazen.
the ground. And Veronica, this is exactly what we saw happening in Santa Monica, but now it's happening in Long Beach.
Right, and again, it's always this small group of people who are really ruining it for everyone else and all of the other protesters practicing civil disobedience here. I am just stunned, though, at how brazen they were on live TV in front of the cops.
Well, it is interesting, though, because what we didn't see in Santa Monica was a police presence where the looting was happening. They were simply going in, taking what they want, and unmolested, unaccosted by the police. They simply ran by them and got out of the area. We didn't see a single attempt to stop them from looting in Santa Monica because, quite frankly, the police had so many things going on in that community. They had priorities, and stopping looters was not one of the priorities, quite clearly. We watched that happen for quite some time there in multiple places in Santa Monica. Now we see Long Beach, where we just saw that scene where suddenly a stack of Long Beach police officers go into a storefront, and then you see the panic from the looters. We didn't see any arrests, Veronica.
No arrests.
But we did at least see a police presence, and that presence alone at least forced the looters out of that store and left whatever merchandise that was left in it.
I think, yeah, that was so startling to see them busting through the window and climbing over that plywood. Just remarkable sights here. We want to bring you the update on the latest that's happening in our area. So there's a delicate situation in Santa Monica where those protests continue despite a city curfew that went into effect at 4 p.m. As police try to clear the streets and prepare to make arrests, looting continues. At least one fire broke out inside a store as vandals ran out. Now, a Los Angeles County-wide curfew is now in effect at this hour, and it's going to be in place until 6 a.m. tomorrow. So if you're outside right now, you are breaking the law. In downtown LA, the National Guard has taken position at City Hall. A large group of protesters has gathered there, so far very peaceful. Protesters are also gathered in Long Beach in violation of the curfew that we were just showing you. They're blocking traffic, and there is looting now underway, as you just saw.
Right, so it's an incredible scene. Leanne Suter now, she joins us from the ground in Santa Monica. Leanne has been watching a lot of back and forth between protesters and police. What's the situation like right now?
David and Veronica, we've moved in past 3rd Street Promenade. I want to give you a look at some of the damage from that looting. Also, I'll give you a live look in a second of a skirmish line that is very active right now. But take a look over my shoulder here. I think you guys watched this live from the helicopter. This is the Van store at the corner of 4th and Broadway. You can see that the looters actually just propped the doors open and just went in and grabbed anything that they could find. The street out here is littered with boxes of all of the shoes that were left behind by all of the looters that ran inside grabbing whatever they could. Over here you can see that there's a jewelry store. They completely smashed out the window, lifted up the metal gate that is every one of the counters I can see inside, all of the cases shattered. If there was anything in there, it is gone. There is not much left inside there, a lot of glass. You can see where they used even bicycles, it appeared, smashing through there to try to get inside. But this is what we're talking about down the road here. This is at Broadway. This remains a very active scene right here. This is where SWAT is in a standoff right now at 5th and Broadway with the protesters on this side. So they've cleared out a large section of the inner area of Santa Monica, I would say around Broadway, Colorado, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. That has all been cleared. They kind of keep pushing them to the east here, and you can see that we are in a standoff with folks right now. I see a lot of the protesters that have kind of climbed up on some of this construction scaffolding, the wooden barriers there around that construction area. I can see a lot of them gathered up there, and the SWAT team is in place here. Now this is the Sheriff's Department helping out Santa Monica here. You can see them getting set up. And a couple of moments ago, I heard them, it sounded like they were using some non-lethal measures. In the middle of the street, that is where they had tried to set that fire. Looks like straw or debris or something that they set on fire. You see it's been doused. I see a bunch of water bottles in there. Here's something else I see. If you can see this, Bill, in the front, it appears that these might have been 2 of the things thrown by the crowds. I know they have been doing that with a couple of things where they've thrown fire extinguishers to them. Yeah, so I see they're going to push this crowd back. I'm going to move us up to the middle of the street because I want to give you a shot down 5th. Turn to the left there, Bill. There's got another skirmish line going down 5th. That would be, I believe, at 5th and Colorado is where that one is. And I just heard them flashbang or something go off down on that end as they're trying to push the folks out of on that side of this protest. But again, you can see them just literally in a face-off, face-to-face with police as they are pushing them back ever so slowly.
Leanne, we
just forcing them back. Go ahead, Veronica.
Yeah, we have your picture up in Santa Monica.
Watch out, watch out, watch out.
Yep, go ahead. Okay, we have your picture up in Santa Monica as those law enforcement officers move closer to the protests, and then on the other side of our screen we have Long Beach where Urban Outfitters was being looted, and there's still people going in and out, not at this exact moment, but we've been watching. The police seem to just walk away from that.
The police have left. Now, this is how quickly things change. So just minutes ago, you saw a police presence there as the store was being looted. Those police have left. As the police left, the looters came back and immediately started going back into the store and taking things from that store. There they are on the corner, but it's been figured out that their goal is not to make any arrests right now. So what we want to show you, as Leanne continues to show you this situation on your left-hand side, we want to show you what happened 5 minutes ago in Long Beach. Just as a store was being broken into and being looted, Long Beach police suddenly showed up and there was bedlam for a quick moment. Can we roll that video? Watch this closely. So there are looters inside the store. This is going to be on your right-hand side. On your left, keep in mind, that's live. Quickly watch. Here comes the police stack. They're going to quickly go to that front door. Inside that building, looters are inside there taking merchandise. Watch the reaction and the desperation to get out.
Just pushing through.
And that was just the beginning of the story.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's the front door. So they're running from that area.
We have my live picture. You see, that's what I have, them facing off just...
And from what we understand, they did show up They did chase looters out, and there was this desperate attempt around the other side of the building to literally get out through the upper level windows, which they were able to do. Veronica, we saw them shatter windows and take down boards in order to get out of that building.
Yeah, they were desperate to get out, and they threw some clothing out. But it sounds like things are picking up where you are, Leanne.
I'm sorry, we are right in here. As you can see them there. You can hear the crowd chanting here, and they're just ever so forcefully pushing this line of protesters back. It's hard to tell kind of how big the crowd is, but it appears we've got about 100 people or more that are here as they're trying to push them back. I see some, some minor skirmishes. I can see them kind of really, the protesters pushing back against the officers, but so far it is relatively peaceful. The protesters just simply backing up. I've only seen a couple of, I saw some eggs thrown at one point, but other than that, I haven't seen anything else thrown from the protesters. I haven't seen, since we've arrived, the police using any of the non-lethal rounds. I see that they have them on their bodies. Several officers have them, but no one is using. The officers in the very front, the sheriff, it's a combination of police and sheriff's department. They have their batons out. They're just gently pushing them all back. Oh, here comes a glass bottle. Somebody just threw a bottle. Here comes another one. So yeah, now they're throwing stuff. So this is when it turns. So now you can see the crowd starting to run. So that's the problem. When they start throwing things, that's when things really take a turn for the worse, because that's when you'll start to see police. But so far, they aren't doing any action. They aren't taking any action against these protesters. I don't know how far back they're going to push them. But again, it just appears that's the goal. Just ever so slowly pushing, inching them away from downtown Santa Monica here. But you're coming into residential areas, and you can see there are people like up on the top of these apartment buildings just watching what's happening, seeing what's going to happen next. But I haven't seen, again, any major problems here. You can see most of the protesters have their hands up as they are backing away from the officers as they ever so slowly push them back. But I just don't know how far this will continue, or at what point they will stop, or if the crowd will disperse, or this is going to be a standoff that's going to continue for some time. I hear the police saying that they're going to hold the line right here for now as they try to determine what their next step will be. But this is just a standoff between the two sides. So we've seen that repeatedly throughout Santa Monica here. Earlier today, we saw it on Ocean, where a very large group of protesters ended up facing off with police, and that ended up lasting a couple of hours before they finally cleared out. I can see SWAT vehicles moving in behind us, but I don't know if that means they're going to take any action coming in or not. But bringing in some more, here we go, some more reinforcements. So again, it's when the bottles and the rocks start being thrown, that's when things turn. So I see more sheriff's deputies coming in right now. So we'll see what happens here as they change it.
I'll hook it back.
Keep them out of the road. So yeah, that's what we're looking at least here in Santa Monica at this point on this section. We have not seen, in the times that we're walking around, I haven't seen any active looting. Water bottles. All right, we're staying over. One came close there.
Yeah. Leanne.
Yeah.
Leanne, this started at noon as a peaceful protest. Do you see the same group of protesters here now, or is it a different group of people? Has it changed?
It's hard to tell if this is the same group. It's hard for me to say if these are the same faces I saw. I don't see any of the ones that we saw in the front of the line that really were making their presence known down at Ocean. But I'm going to guess it's a large, I would guess it's some of the same. Here come some of the motor officers coming in right now. Now you really see the crowd starting to disperse as they watch. So I see them throwing, there's eggs. I see more eggs. They've been throwing eggs and water bottles, really. Come and stay up with him. And so yeah, I can't say this is the same crowd, but I will tell you that the entire time we were down on Ocean, we saw a steady stream of folks walking into Santa Monica. We saw cars coming in off of every roadway we could see. And in fact, right now, we had to make a quick stop at our truck to get a new battery to keep our camera going. And when we stopped there was maybe 20 people that walked by us that were headed into Santa Monica because they wanted to come join these protests. And they knew that there was a curfew in place, but that didn't matter to them. They said they were still coming anyway, and that they couldn't be stopped. But so people are still continuing to come into Santa Monica despite the very large police presence and the fact that they're attempting to clear everyone out. I see a lot of the protesters now running. So that's one thing we have noticed in following along with this, is that they end up, something will happen in the crowd, then the crowd will run to another location to try to cause any kind of disturbance or see if there are cops on that, wherever they're headed. So they really kind of keep shifting this from location to location all throughout the city. So it's making it really hard for authorities to keep up and try to keep track of all of these protesters as they move from location to location.
Leanne, did you say you have a battery issue? Do you need to reload your battery? If so, we can redirect right now because we have a couple of things going on. Okay, so...
You can, yeah, if you guys have other things you want to show, go ahead.
We're going to do that right now. We want to redirect to Long Beach, where you can see what looks like another group of looters going into a storefront. This appears to be a mall of some sort. Scott Reif is over at Air 7 HD. Scott?
Yeah, David, it's a large mall right in the heart of Long Beach, right off Shoreline, and basically between Shoreline and Ocean. And this mall right now is being ransacked. That Gap was completely gutted. It looked like the Hot Topic. You have looters going in, and what looks like happening here is there's little to no police presence. So we just pulled up on scene. We left Santa Monica. We're now in downtown Long Beach, right off the shoreline. But if we open up out of this shot, you're sort of seeing it with me. We just pulled up moments ago, and we don't see police presence here at all. So if this started as a protest and a march, we didn't really see this. This looks like this was just a bunch of people who swarmed into this area and started going through this entire shopping center. If you tilt up, it looks like right in there, somebody is already trying to board up the windows to try and keep them out of some of the stores that are inside. Of course, there's a lot of stores that the front door is to the outside. There's a lot of apartments in this same area, so we give you a little bit of a wide shot. But what's interesting about what we're seeing, I mean, we saw this in Long Beach, in Santa Monica. We're in Long Beach. What's different here is there is little to no police presence right now. There's no one stopping them. I don't see any line of officers trying to push anybody out. And right now, I think these stores in this area are just basically at the mercy of these looters. There's a cop car there, and it looks like maybe even an armored vehicle moving in. So there we start to see the police coming into the shopping center. But right now, a lot of looting going on here in Long Beach, similar to what we saw in Santa Monica, what we saw just moments ago when we were overhead.
This is an area, this mall is called the Pike Outlets. There you see the sign over there to your right-hand side, the Pike Outlets. So there's a number of fairly large stores that are in that area. And if these looters have been there for quite a while, then they've had access to a lot of merchandise right now, because you can see this is a sizable facility. Long Beach police have shown up to this place, but there's a couple of fronts here that we've been watching in Long Beach. And keep in mind, this is the same area that just moments ago we showed you that video of people who were looting one store suddenly panicking and getting out of it because the police have showed up. There's also a line there, a police line with the protesters. So that's also going on in Long Beach as well. We'll eventually split screen that because we have a ground photographer that is covering that as well.
You'll see the officers.
Veronica, as we saw,
if you open up out of the shot,
this is earlier video.
That is
on your right-hand side. When it eventually rolls, you're going to see what we have been talking about, and that is you'll see Long Beach police eventually show up. This on your right-hand side is going to be the front door of a store. The police are showing up now, and you'll see them get to the front of that store. And Veronica, you and I were watching with their mouths open when this was happening.
It's just so shocking. This is an Urban Outfitters. They were inside, and then look at just they're so frantic to get out, and then there are people stuck inside still after this as we continue to watch this video play out. They tried to break through the windows and successfully do so above the boarded up.
Right, bear with us as this video plays out on your right-hand side, and keep in mind we are watching what's live on the left-hand side too. As the police have shown up there on the left-hand side, there are protesters there with their hands up and with their signs showing. We can't assume that they are looters, but there are looters. There you go. Those are looters.
There it is. Yep. There they go. They smashed through that top window.
Back to the video. That is an incredible sight there. This happened just minutes ago in that same. Is it an Urban Outlets?
Urban Outfitters, yep.
Outfitters.
You got it, yep. And then you'll see them with the pile of clothing, throw it out the window.
This is since the police are at the front door, they're trying to find a way out through the side by smashing the windows and going over those boards, and even being so brazen as to continue to take the merchandise with them.
And the police are just right there. And then you see that woman.
There.
There's the police. And then you see a woman blocking these, it's so different when you are blocking protesters who are peacefully gathering and trying to create space in between officers and protesters. This is different.
Yeah.
This is criminal behavior. This is a crime.
So on the left-hand side, it continues. So those are looters leaving the express store with hands full of merchandise. Police are there, but from the video you see on your right and the live pictures on the left, you could clearly see, now they're both live, you could clearly see the police are under instructions not to stop looters, they're under instructions to control the protests.
Yes, absolutely. It's really hands-off when it comes to the stores. And I think that it's, as we've been talking with business owners, seeing their cries and their distress, they want a heavier hand. They don't want people going into their stores. But the police also have to counterbalance that with the protesters expressing their First Amendment rights.
They consider that to be the bigger picture, and that is what's going to happen with these large groups of people that are protesting. So, again, live pictures now on both sides. One on the ground in Long Beach. This is where a large area of protesters are. One in the air, that's where Scott Reif is, over this outlet mall called the Pike Outlets, where we're watching looters or looting occurring. If we bring Scott back into this, he's been watching this. So this express store is losing a lot of merchandise in front of your very eyes, Scott.
Yeah, complete lawlessness. I mean, mayhem here in Long Beach. That store probably been gutted by now. We've seen several dozen people run out with merchandise. This is sort of the entrance to this whole outlet right there, and you do see some Long Beach police officers trying to stop people from getting to some of the other stores, but they're not. They don't have the resources to come forward and shut this down and try and take these people that are busting into these stores into arrest or arrest them. I want to come out of the shot and just show you there are several stores, though. There was a Hot Topic store. That one was being looted. You see a group on the left, that's Shoreline. But if we push back into the Hot Topic right there, you can see several stores here on this side of the mall. They've been broken into. Most of the merchandise has probably been taken out. And then I want to open up and show you a group of protesters. I can't tell by looking out my window. If you open up and tilt up just a little bit, Chad, and then you tilt to the right, you do see some Long Beach police coming in. But it's quite a way. To the right, you're going to see a large group of people come down a little bit and then continue to pan to the right, if you would. It's about 2 blocks up, maybe 3. You're going to see it coming, I believe, on the right side of your screen. Here in just a moment, you're going to see a group of people there. And it appears that that portion of the protest and a skirmish line with the Long Beach police appears to be peaceful as far as them breaking into the stores. But, we just arrived here. Look at the, what is that, a Carvery store on the top of your screen, and on the bottom of your screen you could tell the store owners were prepared. They have the plywood up to stop looters from getting in. So we are seeing basically the same thing we saw earlier this afternoon in Santa Monica, now here in Long Beach. And if there's anything that sort of resembles, it's not nearly what we saw in 92, but if there's anything that starts to resemble it a little bit, it's the scope of how far apart some of the looting has become, and the rioting, if you will, because in that area we had problems in the San Fernando Valley, Long Beach, South LA, East LA, it was everywhere. But now to see this spread down into Long Beach, we have the same problems in Santa Monica. Certainly resources are going to get very, very thin. We have not seen the National Guard out yet, but I think we may soon if this continues.
I think you're absolutely right. We want to let our viewers know, is this is still our live pictures?
They're both live pictures now.
Live pictures on the ground.
Both in Long Beach, but in separate parts of Long Beach.
Right. And
there's a lot of running there, Scott. What is that running from?
I'm not certain. I'm not certain if the police decided to try and move people out. We've seen people run on occasion to get away from police or to maybe get into a store that someone just recently broke into. So it always gets our attention when all of a sudden a large group starts to run. I can't explain why that happened. Possibly some shots were fired, some rubber bullets from the police. I don't know that for sure. I don't see any tear gas. Maybe the police made an announcement. We're going to start making arrests. It's hard to say what actually caused those individuals to start running like that, but certainly when we see that, we know that something substantial is happening. And certainly there are several areas like this. Say that again, please. This is Pine and Broadway. This is the corner of Pine and Broadway, basically in what is really a very nice area of Long Beach. They've really been making Long Beach nicer over the years. They've really restored it compared to what we had here 10 years ago. But certainly we saw that group take off running.
Black Lives Matter's protesters, a group I would say numbering at about 1,000. Now, somewhere lost in that sea of humanity is a group of Santa Ana police officers who are completely outnumbered. And in fact, one time they were trying to block the intersection, but that failed. And so they have moved out of the way and they have gone ahead and let this group of protesters have the intersection. As you can see, the protesters are now starting to move. And I can tell you that for the most part, these protesters have been well behaved. They have gathered in big numbers, but all they've done so far is carry signs, and they've been chanting as they have walked through the downtown streets of Santa Ana. Chants like "No justice, no peace," "Black Lives Matter," "I can't breathe," and the like. They've been walking throughout the streets of Santa Ana, and I can tell you, as we've driven the streets of Santa Ana, many, many businesses have been boarded up. Those that were broken into last night as part of the looting that was going on here. But in the meantime, other businesses.
Outfitters.
There it is. He hears you.
Yep.
He just showed the sign. Outfitters is the name of this store.
And you can see it looks like they sell some clothing. We saw some clothing coming out of there, but very much ransacked. Someone tweeted at me, said it is a small business.
Oh, that's a shame. And that's been our biggest concern. And that's what we saw a lot last night when we saw the looting happening in the Fairfax area. And many of those businesses that were looted were family-owned businesses, small businesses at that were losing so much of their livelihood.
Absolutely. After months of being shut down due to the pandemic, this is just
new developments now. We want to go to Santa Monica, where we're understanding that there have been some damage to police cruisers. I hope I'm not jumping the gun on this one. Let's go to Chris Christie in Air 7, who is now over Santa Monica trying to assess the damage. Chris?
Maybe he's not ready.
Oh, he may not be.
Yeah.
He may not be ready. But these are live pictures from Santa Monica. Let's take a closer look as we push in, and that definitely seems like there was a fire of some sort, a vehicle fire. And look, it might have even spread to that.
Test 1, 2.
You there, Chris?
Dave, yeah, David, I've got you.
Okay.
So that is an unmarked vehicle, other than the marking on the roof there, that apparently was torched a short time ago. This is right next to the Santa Monica courthouse. Apparently, unfortunately, Santa Monica Fire Department able to get this fire out, not before that fire destroyed. Looks like 2 law enforcement vehicles right next to the courthouse. Fortunately, that appears to have been resolved, guys.
Yeah, we do want to let our viewers know that we've just learned the westbound 10 at Bundy has been shut down. So a lot of traffic disturbances, but it's not like anybody should be out anyway because LA County is currently under curfew.
Right.
Yeah, we just saw that as we were coming this way. They actually have a Caltrans construction truck with a large amount of barricades, literally shutting down the entire freeway right there at the Bundy interchange. So as you approach the city limits of Santa Monica, the 10 freeway comes to a halt. There's very, very few cars on the eastbound side as well. But I do think that people are starting to take the curfew a little bit more seriously, at least on the west side, because between downtown and Santa Monica, the 10 freeway is virtually empty. There's a few cars that are discovering the closure at Bundy, and they're being forced to exit off at Bundy. But beyond that, there is very, very little traffic, fortunately, on the 10 freeway.
Yeah, and throughout the day, Chris, we have been seeing them make their attempts to shut down access to the Santa Monica area through the 10 freeway and Pacific Coast Highway. They first shut down the exit ramps, but they kept the freeway open. Now they're completely shutting down the freeway. So it's a really dynamic attempt to keep folks from getting into that area. And keep in mind that curfew was put into place in Santa Monica at 4 o'clock this afternoon, so it's well after that. And there's a great shot that Chris is showing us right now of the 10 freeway, and it is virtually empty. Just a few cars, as he said, going in the eastbound direction. Westbound is shut down.
This is a weekend when we were expecting traffic to pick up because LA County businesses were reopening.
Yeah.
And this is the total opposite of what so many people expected to happen.
Right. And so to update you now, there are two hot spots, if you will, that we're watching closely.
Oh, look at Long Beach there.
Yeah, Long Beach, there's some running there. That is a live picture from Scott's helicopter, and the other on the left, that is a 10 freeway that, as we've been saying, has been shut down, so people cannot get access into Santa Monica. If we could hold these shots, I want to bring back Scott Reif right now. Another group of people running, Scott. I know I just asked you this exact same question a little while back. Do you know why they're running?
I believe they're running from the police, to be honest with you. Now, it's interesting. I want to show you what my assessment is of what happened here on Pine. I want to open up out of this shot. There's a group on both the north and south side of Pine in about a one-block area, and basically they pinned in the police. I think Long Beach police came down Pine, and they ran into this crowd, and then a crowd formed behind them. Moments ago when we saw those individuals running, it's hard to tell. You know, we're isolated from in the helicopter as far as what actually happens down there, as far as the sounds and things of that nature. But it wouldn't surprise me if some of the officers were trying to move forward and they may have shot some rubber bullets at someone who tried to approach them, and then at that point we saw people try to run and get away, but they slowly came back. So this is really a challenging situation as we open up out of this shot and show you what's happening here in Long Beach. This incident right here is chaotic. It is very dangerous. You have police surrounded on Pine Street right here in between Broadway and 3rd Street. Push in to the top of your screen, and once you get folks starting to move closer and closer to the police and they're not obeying the officer's commands to disband, to leave, that's when tensions really start to get hot. So there are two hot spots here in Long Beach. The one we're showing you right now, and then of course, David, I forget the name of the outlet mall that you mentioned a little bit earlier, but that is being ransacked at the moment. And there is a line of officers, Long Beach police officers and the SWAT team moving in, trying to control that. But we have two very tense situations, one on the surface street and one at the mall. It is chaotic. There's no sense of control on these streets here in Long Beach, none whatsoever. It is going to be a long, long night, I'm afraid.
That's so disheartening to hear, especially with the National Guard moving in, Scott. Now, we want to bring our viewers up to date as we continue our live breaking news coverage here on ABC7. We have a very dynamic situation unfolding with several protests against police violence going on in Southern California. So some have now declared unlawful assemblies. Looting is now occurring in Long Beach, as we've been showing you this past hour. Curfews are in place in many communities, including all of LA County. That curfew went in at 6 o'clock tonight, and it runs until 6 in the morning. In Santa Monica, we have seen both peaceful protests along with the looting of many businesses and some fires. Police have been trying to disperse the demonstrators for about 3 hours now. Meanwhile, in downtown Los Angeles, the National Guard has taken a protective stance on the steps of City Hall, and it's quite a scene out there as well. So we have, I would say, about 3 major protests that are happening in our community.
Right. So you've been, the last few seconds, we've been showing you video, and this is the video that we have been witnessing throughout the afternoon. This is Santa Monica. This is that Vons grocery store where we saw a number of people running with merchandise, and then just seconds later we saw this, a fire that was burning right down the street in a jewelry store that was also being looted. There are various scenes from out Santa Monica, and then there's that video, that dynamic video of the National Guard protecting our Los Angeles courthouse. So City Hall, excuse me. So these are sobering scenes that show the state of what we are in right now and this crisis that we are dealing with throughout not just Southern California, throughout the entire country. And we've been covering our neighborhoods, but these are scenes that are playing out in cities across America.
It really is. Every single major city, more than 25 cities across the country, seeing so much violence, distress. You know, it's really a convergence of so many different things, socio-political issues. There are, what are you saying, David?
Well, I think it's interesting because Christy and Air 7 and Santa Monica through the 10 freeway showed us a line of police cars rolling down the freeway, and we were curious to see where they were going. Chris, you've been following them, right? Is that them? I'm sorry, Chris Christie?
Sorry, David. David, are you talking to me?
Yeah, that line of cars that you followed down the 10 freeway into Santa Monica, is that them that we're over right now?
No, this is a separate group of Santa Monica and LAPD, actually LA County Sheriff deputies that are crawling down 6th Street. We just saw this a minute ago as we were covering that car fire, and I'm trying to see what they are doing here. It looks like they formed a bit of a skirmish line, and it does look like there are some stragglers from that large group that's been hanging out in Santa Monica, the group possibly that was over on Ocean at one point, now appears to be moving southbound on 6th Street. So they're moving southbound on 6th Street, and this particular group on scooters and on foot is certainly outnumbered. It's one of the few times during the course of all of this that I've seen any of these groups completely outnumbered by law enforcement. They are injecting a large amount of law enforcement presence into these various streets. There's been reports, multiple reports throughout the day, but have picked up in the last hour or so of somebody starting fires along Wilshire and at other locations in Santa Monica, such as the car fire that we just showed you. And so they are definitely starting to cover more ground here. Again, with the help of the LA County Sheriff's Department, the Santa Monica Police Department is coordinating all of this, and they are covering a lot more ground, almost in a grid fashion, across the city of Santa Monica, specifically between Lincoln and the beach.
Chris, I'm really just fascinated by the posture of these officers because it seems very relaxed and calm. This doesn't seem confrontational in any way. You know, looks like they are kind of talking to some of the protesters, but moving them along very nicely. Very different.
It's calm. This is peaceful. Now, what's happening down there is unlawful. They should not be on the street right now. This is an unlawful assembly, and so they certainly have the right to begin making arrests if that order is given. If that order is given, they will be completely within their right to begin arresting these folks. They should not be out right now. Right. They're not even carrying signs. They're really kind of hanging out in the street. They're on scooters, they're on foot, they're on bicycles, some of them, but you can see the overwhelming show of force that is being presented to this particular group here. This same scene, or similar scenes like it, as I look across the city between the 3rd Street Promenade and where we're
they're empty. People took shoes and left behind empty shoe boxes. This is a lot of trash for the city to clean up. And as we keep walking this way, again, I want to show you police also have this area blocked off. And if we gauged it correctly, it appears that this formation goes for at least 5 more blocks. People have been pushed out of this area, out of the business district, after a couple of hours of looting along with peaceful protesting here in Santa Monica. So it's interesting, and we wonder what's going to happen as it gets dark. Are police going to continue to stand and hold guard here, or will they move to other areas? We're definitely going to keep a lookout.
Coco, we have this, Monica, just now. One thing they said in their tweet says, if you're a resident of a neighboring area, we thank you for returning to your home.
The helicopter circling the area. I don't see any smoke. Don't see any smoke, but I do see a very large mess. Actually, there's looters at Bay City's Italian Deli running through the right across. Hold on a second. That's actually down the block. Okay, the front of the Vons. There's actually there's looters running through there, and there's there's a couple of fire trucks in front of the Vons. I don't see any smoke. You can see some people running through the parking lot across the street from Vons. I don't know what business this is here, but if you widen out just a little bit, there are a couple of fire trucks at the Vons over to the left. If you just pan over to the left and tilt up just a little bit, you'll see that Vons widen out a little bit, and that's the parking lot. Right there, we'll push in, and you can see the fire trucks have just arrived at Vons, and they do have a LA County Sheriff's escort with them. That is in line with what we've been seeing over the course of the last 24 hours. All of our local fire crews have been escorted by law enforcement. This is a quite peculiar visual here, as they actually have a SWAT team vehicle or a Special Enforcement Bureau vehicle arriving on scene here, and actually a number of units kind of surrounding this Vons here. So I wonder if there might be some concern of additional people inside the Vons, but you're watching this with us here. Look at that. Look at I don't know what that Charger was up to. Just
being provocative,
just driving by
probably
through the intersection here.
I wonder if this Bearcat is there to help protect the fire department in case there are looters still inside, and maybe they got a call
That's what I'm thinking.
of potential arson going on inside the building, and they need to keep the firefighters safe, provide some protection, clear the building out if there is, in fact, a fire going on inside. As you said, the good news is there's no smoke coming out, but clearly something is going on, and that's the same Vons that we've been watching, and we just showed you video of it being looted just a few minutes ago. So it is a front that has had a lot of problems this afternoon there in Santa Monica, and as we continue to scour through the area, you're seeing a lot of activity.
These appear to be folks who are these people are certainly up to no good. That's going to be. We'll go ahead and see what business that is on the right side there, Brian. Well, it's a Converse. No, it's a motorcycle gear. It's a motorcycle shop. Looters in and out of the shops right along Lincoln Boulevard. And if we widen out, you can see this is a large crowd of looters that are going store to store down Lincoln Boulevard south of Broadway and hitting up any easy target that they could find.
In both cases, so you're seeing that occur both in Long Beach and Santa Monica. To the left, that is that Pike Outlet Mall in Santa Monica, where also a Bearcat is set up there. There is now some police protection, a police presence. Let's bring in Scott Reif as he's watching this scene. It looks like they're finally locking this place down, Scott.
They are, yeah. This outlet mall here in Long Beach, right in the heart of downtown, right off the shoreline, they are locking that down. They moved in with Long Beach. They have their own SWAT team. They moved out most of the looters that were hitting some of the stores, but when we push in, you can tell a lot of the windows are broken. A lot of merchandise was gotten to and stolen here, but the police department has finally really taken control of this area where the shopping center is. If we look at that street and you tilt up with your camera a little bit, there's only one more street they really have to get shut down, and that's that street you see right there. But the entrance into the shopping center, this outlet store, for the most part, they have shut it down, and I don't see a lot of people trying to break into it any longer. That is good news. Now, from here, I think we can go back to that instance on Pine, though, because that's very interesting, because the police are surrounded on both sides. And another interesting thing that I've seen is, you know, we've seen about 4 pharmacies that have been broken into. There was a location that officers had to respond to just moments ago, and it was a pharmacy that was looted. They got what they wanted and they left. I think Pine might be right down in the center of your screen, if I'm not mistaken, to the right a little bit. And we're trying to find where the officers had set up. Keep going to the right, one more block. And I believe that's where it was. We had a hard time locating it, but there we go. The situation here is that with Pine shut down and a crowd on both sides of the officers, we've seen them run from time to time, but it's a real concern, I believe, for the Long Beach Police Department, because if we open up out of the shot and come towards us, you're going to see all the patrol cars, and you're going to see they're sort of surrounded on 3rd Street and on Broadway, and they're trying to get this crowd to disperse, but they're resisting. They're not doing it. The shopping center, that was a real hot spot when we first arrived on scene. That's calmed down. They do seem to have control of that, but this situation here still seems pretty volatile.
All right, Scott, keep your eyes open on that one as we continue to watch your live pictures with this, as well as Chris Christie in Santa Monica. We want to bring in a very important interview right now via Skype. Anger, frustration.
Being taken into custody by police for failing to leave the area and obey the curfew. We see LAPD, we see Santa Monica PD, we see Los Angeles County Sheriffs, and it's not quite clear who they're deciding on, who they're arresting, but I've probably seen 10 or 12 people taken away in those flex cuffs so far.
So we are seeing, Phil, quite a show of presence of law enforcement here, yet also such a calmer feel there on the streets. I mean, it is coming up
definitely.
on 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Soon it's going to be nightfall and darker there. Are you thinking that the crowd has moved out of Santa Monica, or are they on other streets from your perspective?
From my perspective, this is probably one of the larger crowds that's left here in town because we saw this huge number of police moving into position in response to the crowd blocking the street here at 6th and in Colorado. So that's where the focus of their efforts is right now. The police have far, far outnumbered the protesters that are left. See that Sheriff's Department Special Weapons Team vehicle there with the officer with the automatic weapon and the turret. I mean, they've clearly taken control of the streets. Quite a contrast to what we saw earlier this afternoon, right?
Quite a contrast, which Phil, I think some of those images that you and your photographer, and I think you're still with Tommy Aragon, who's also done great work today, are images that will be seared with us for a long time of just the blatant, complete disregard for the law. And that the image from earlier of all the folks walking with their boxes and the police doing nothing, it was really something that I'll never forget. And so
no, you're right. You're right. And no, it's been a remarkable day here for all the wrong reasons.
So is that woman holding a flower? What is she holding?
There's a woman there holding flowers. She's got a mask on, an N95 mask. She's being interviewed by, I think, maybe a European station. I think it's and you know, she's here. She's spreading a message of love. There's another guy across the street with pulling a wagon full of flowers. Says wage love
on the ground here. Oh, no, it's a car fire.
All kinds of people.
Car fire. We're going to try and get that location. 11th and Broadway. 11th and Broadway. We've had a vehicle that has caught fire here. It's unclear about how that vehicle may have caught fire. Look at it, was kind of diagonal in the intersection up against the curb there, and now is fully involved. Fire department not on the scene right here yet. We're seeing a lot of police vehicles now heading to the east right now. It looks like they may be trying to block those some of those people who were breaking the law and trying to box them in, perhaps for an arrest. We were hearing that they were planning to make arrests, and we'll see if that is the case. So again, another car fire here in Santa Monica, 11th and Broadway, is throwing off a lot of smoke. Thankfully on this one, he's kind of on the curb in the intersection, so it looks like there's no structures that are around that is going to be in peril right now. So again, vehicle unknown how it became involved, but it certainly is. And there's a lot of running around, a lot of police calls on
they refused to move out of the street. It's possible they said something or were aggressive towards the police officers. Sergeant, we're live on Fox 11. Would it be possible to ask you a question?
All right, now, sir.
All right, figured I'd take a shot. Just wanted to find out what the thinking is of the police department here. Are they going to move everybody out of this area? Are they going to try to start to enforce the curfew or not? Again, this is probably less than a dozen people at the intersection of 6th and Colorado. We'll keep an eye on it, and I'm sure we'll be coming back here shortly. Alex, Christine.
Phil, as a longtime viewers of yours, your brashness in going up to people and fearlessness is a joy to watch. Thank you. We are looking live. This appears to be a car fire. We believe the address here is 11th and Broadway. We don't know what caused this, although from the location of that car, you wonder if that car may have crashed because it's in a sort of a strange place that you would not think would be a regular location for a car, the way it's sitting there. You hope that whoever was in that car is okay and was able to get out of there safely. You see somebody coming close to that car running over there, but doesn't look like they're appearing to try to put it out. Santa Monica Fire Department, which has been so taxed today, fighting multiple fires. We've seen a car that burned by the Santa Monica courthouse not too long ago. We hope that they're able to get to this location quickly to prevent this from becoming a bigger fire. Leo Terrell, who has been joining us throughout the day, civil rights attorney, the chaos continues, and I've been hearing
from what America does. They look to the violence that is meted upon us on an everyday basis, and they're returning the same. It is not just us who have to say, stop, don't do this. We have to see law enforcement also understand that there's another way to engage our communities.
Well put. Michael Austin, President and CEO of the Los Angeles Urban League, we thank you so much for your insight and for joining us today. We hope we can talk to you again very soon.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll take a look now at this startling video just into our newsroom from Minneapolis. We're going to roll it for you. A semi-truck barreling down the highway right towards a massive crowd of protesters. Those enraged protesters stormed that semi. After it came to a stop, they attacked the driver. That driver eventually taken to a local hospital and then was arrested. Investigators believe that truck was on the freeway shortly before police put up roadblocks to shut down the freeway, but it's unclear what the driver's motive was when he was speeding towards those demonstrators. It doesn't appear that anyone in the crowd was injured, incredibly.
Which is a minor miracle at that, with a gigantic vehicle moving at that kind of speed with all those people on the freeway, but nobody got hurt except for the driver. We'll try to get to the bottom of that and bring you more information. In the meantime, we want to bring you back to some video that we shot in Santa Monica, some sound from a protester that was quite dynamic. So listen to this.
It's not about the riots. It's about what caused it. It's about the fact that an innocent man was killed senselessly. And quite frankly, the fact that all the attention's being put on this and rather what caused this is exactly what the problem is.
It's about the fact that if Jamal kills John, Jamal goes to jail. Police officer Bob kills John. Police officer Bob gets off with a 2-week suspension. It's not right. We've had enough of it. It's not just the George Floyd situation. It's the A. Tatiana. It's the Breonna Taylors. It's the Tamir Rices of the world. We get no respect. Black bodies have no value in this community. People don't understand. They don't think of black people as actual people, because when you think of somebody else as a human being, there's an overflow of empathy that you have for somebody. It's not just white people. America as a whole embodies how police officers think we should be treated. And it's a problem, and it needs to stop. We have had enough. We are out here dying.
Absolutely. There may be a small percentage that are taking advantage, but guess what? There's also a small percentage of police officers that take advantage of us every single day, kill us every single day, and don't get anything but a slap on the wrist. Yep. And it's just not going to happen anymore. Change is coming one way or another.
I'm not here to loot. I'm not here to steal a damn thing. I don't need nothing from nobody. What I do need, however, is to make sure my daughter is safe when she going to school. What I do need to know is young brothers like this right here ain't gonna get their lives taken from them for a misdemeanor crime. I don't care if George had to forge the fake money. He did not deserve to die. This man does not have the right to be jury, judge, and prosecutor. It doesn't work that way.
So incredibly passionate. And it's incredible to hear that emotion. That is the reason why protesters are out. His message, they are truly embodying the purpose of this weekend.
That's the dialogue that needs to be taking place right now. And during this protest, during this weekend of protest, or this week of protest, it's that kind of talk to promote better understanding. Unfortunately, we're dealing with almost two different stories today. We're dealing with these protesters and the message that they want to send, but we're also dealing with the fact that private businesses, family businesses are being broken into and stolen from by entirely different factions. So in some respects, we're sitting here covering two separate stories. The link, of course, is one faction, the looters, are taking advantage of the protests and using that, as Hal Kempfer put it, camouflage to do their crimes.
Absolutely. They're using them as a cloak, and not just here in Los Angeles. It's all over the country. Tony Cabrera joins us now. There's been some protests down in Orange County. And Tony, what are you seeing down south? Maybe?
Hang on there. We're trying to get Tony Cabrera right now, who's been covering the situation in Orange County, as you continue to look at different images. And while we wait for Tony to join us, we will tell you, though, that there he is.
Am I here?
Yeah, you there, Tony? Yeah, what is the latest in Orange
David,
County?
Veronica, you know, it's been a different story here in Orange County so far. You know, we haven't seen the looting yet. We haven't seen any violence. In Huntington Beach, though, we did see some clashes between counter-protesters with
that we just gone through a pandemic. We talked about social distancing. It didn't occur over the last 4 or 5 days. What type of risk would a family who's been watching this and who has been sheltered in place, what action do they take now? I'm personally totally confused. Are those individuals out there who are out there not following social distancing, are they possibly going to quarantine themselves? I don't think so. So am I going to inject myself out in the community with some of these people? It is a frightening time to live in this city and to live in this country because you don't know what is the next appropriate step.
Yeah, indeed. Leo, thank you. That car now, the fire being put out, which is good to see near that Audi dealership. Let's go to Christina Gonzalez in downtown Los Angeles, where we have seen some members of the National Guard in place. So far, they've helped to keep the peace there. Christina.
Yeah, let me show you what is happening. The last time you came to us, you saw that the crowd was actually staying away from the stairs, actually pushing up into the barricade. And what you see on the right is the police department has taken the front lead on this, and they've actually brought out not only their less lethal weapons but also their batons, and they've placed them in front, and you can see that they are getting ready to try to protect City Hall. Behind them is the National Guard, and they are getting in position because their concern is that these guys will push this barricade they erected down. Now let me show you also to our left. You were asking about the National Guard. As you were asking about the National Guard, those are the Humvees that are surrounding all of this area around LAPD headquarters, around City Hall. Now, as you see the crowd actually, we have some people coming to join them. So it's gotten a little bit bigger, not as big as it was earlier, but definitely some people are talking to each other on social media, and they're watching this, and they want to be here. At the same time, we do have constant reminders from the helicopter above. We've had at least 3 of them saying that it is past curfew and asking people to leave. But at this point, they have not declared this anything that they would act upon. There has been nothing violent in their mind that they would say is a disruption, except what you're seeing, which is a development in the last few minutes, that they have kind of run up to the barricade that was erected, and they're beginning to push it, which is why the officers have stepped forward and taken the defensive posture that you see. We have also heard around us sirens, which possibly means they may be preparing for a metro deployment on this, which would be the next logical step in this kind of situation. The officers you see behind that are not going to take on this crowd. They would first call Metro in to try to disperse them. We will keep you updated on the situation downtown at City Hall. Back to you guys in the studio.
As we leave Christina's shot, I'm just moved by seeing the National Guard there wearing the masks in a sign of the times. All right, Bill Maluzhin there.
This is an interesting picture right here. This is the Audi dealership in Santa Monica. We had some indications from my friend Peter Yonan, who just texted me, that there may have been cars that had been stolen from there. We wonder if these are people that have stolen these cars, or if this is people that work there trying to get those cars out of there. This is a dealership. As a Audi owner, this is where I go for my service. I'm very familiar with these people.
Look at law enforcement
from the police presence here, it gives you a sense that maybe we don't know exactly what's happening here. If it is indeed true, that my friend that told me about the one car crash sent me a video of another potential car crash on 20th Street. Kevin Takumi, as you look at this from Skyfox, what are you hearing about what's going on at that Audi dealership?
Yeah, so what happened was that we saw the car fire that was here at Broadway and 11th, and fire department came and put it out, and then some people started to throw, the police started to show up, so people started throwing fireworks at the officers and the fire department. And then you can see that crowd that was there watching came northbound here on 11th. The sheriff's department came in and kind of closed things off here, and then people started driving, trying to get away from the deputies there, and got into the parking lot of the Audi. There's no way out for them except driving through an edge right here in the handicapped area and driving off of the curb. That's the only way out for them. So they got kind of jammed in here, and all these people were running from the location. Oh, they're coming in now. They're going to support the firefighters down at Broadway and 11th, but people started throwing firecrackers at the firemen down there, and also at the officers down below. But they've been able to come in here, but that car's still burning. There's some fuel leaking and going into the drain, and that's on fire as well. So the fire department needed some support here. They came in there, and all those people just kind of took off running northbound up here and trying to get away from it all, but they got caught in that Audi parking lot, and then they had to zigzag. There's still some people caught up in there.
Is there an indication that those are people that are actual Audi owners who, for some reason, were getting their car serviced today, or are those people that have stolen these cars? Do we have any way to know that?
No, those were just, those were cars that were just that were getting away, that they were coming northbound here, and then they turned into the driveway just to drive through there. You've got some employees from the Audi business trying to shoo people away and keep them away from that. So I don't know to what extent and how, if that other Audi was stolen and taken down the street and crashed. But you can see the crowd here, kind of at Santa Monica and 11th Street. It's kind of dispersed now because all those people ran from the location, but everybody has been pushed out of downtown Santa Monica. They kept pushing them on Broadway, kept pushing them east, and so they have cleared out everything from Ocean to Lincoln has been cleared out at this point. But as that crowd kind of moves east, there's been a lot of looting just off to the corner over here. There was a CVS that was broken into. You can see there's several other businesses here.
The protests that have been going on throughout Southern California, and I want to establish the scene for you here. We are watching this particular protest that has picked up some steam here in Long Beach, but this particular part of the protest is quite peaceful, which we're encouraged to see. But to let you know, though, it has had its moments, and there are also looters that have arrived as well. and created their own chaos nearby. We're going to show you some of that video in just a second, but we want to establish to our new audience where we are and what we're looking at. Veronica, it's been a busy day, and this is a scene that we've seen repeated throughout Southern California.
That's right. We started at noon and we were over Santa Monica, where we followed the very peaceful protest. It started off with about a few hundred people. They were marching around the city, practicing civil disobedience, kneeling at intersections, stopping cars, but never being violent. But it's when looters, so criminals coming into the city, taking advantage of the situation, going off in little pockets and causing the chaos. That's when the disruption really began in Santa Monica. And then in Long Beach, which is what you're looking at right now from the air and from the ground, we saw significant looting at the Pike outlets. So many stores just ransacked, and very, very troubling situation.
Right. Okay, so we have Chris Christie up in Air 7. He's watching it from the air. And on the right-hand side, that's our ground camera in Santa Monica. But we also want to bring you to downtown Los Angeles, where Rob McMillan is joining us right now to give us his perspective on what's happening in downtown. And I believe you're right in front of the City Hall. Is that correct, Rob?
That's correct. Right in front of LA City Hall, and a rather peaceful protest out here right now. Hundreds of people gathered in front of City Hall. And what's remarkable about this scene is, as we've been watching all day long, the National Guard is now on scene. And you can see the National Guard lined up on the steps in front of City Hall. In front of them, what looks like officers with LAPD. And then farther down, there are barricades. There are people gathered behind the barricades. You can see hundreds of people here. And again, a fairly peaceful crowd at this point. Every now and then they'll start chanting things. We've only been on scene here for a few minutes, so it's tough to tell exactly what they're saying, but they have signs that say, "I can't breathe," "No justice, no peace." And again, at this point, a very, very peaceful crowd. If you pan to the north, I want to show you that the National Guard isn't just up there. They're also on the street.
Message that some of the protesters are calling for. So it was less mom and pop stores that were getting hit, and that goes along with what I was seeing on social media, that the directives were to hit these big box stores. But then I saw online the Sand and Surf. That place was just ravaged, and that's a local surf shop.
And that's on Main Street as you make your way towards Venice. And that's what I'm saying. We're seeing the Big Five that was on just east of 26 and Wilshire. We're seeing areas near Montana Avenue. Then we make our way south as we head in towards the Venice area, Main Street. Now this is along Broadway as we head into Santa Monica, Lincoln Boulevard. We've seen things happening in that particular area. They just went through this small computer company.
Let's go up to Derek Bell. He's behind Sky 5. Derek, we're looking at some of the looters divvying up the spoils, I'm guessing, huh?
That's right. A large box was brought out here. This is on Broadway at about 6th Street. We understand that this was taken out of one of a building here just a short time ago. What it is they have in their hand, we just don't know, but everybody is there taking a little sample of it and moving about. So the latest that we heard was that the police have had enough of all this, and what they're going to try and do is do some mass arrests. They're going to sweep up and down Broadway. This is Broadway. And then just start taking people into custody. Whether that happens or not, whether they have the resources to do that, whether they can be effective of doing that or not, we just don't know. We're going to have to watch. So we've got still quite a number of people out in the area here, moving into areas that are just targets of opportunity and taking basically whatever they can.
Yeah, Derek, if you can keep your picture up, we're expecting some of the city officials from Santa Monica to be holding a news conference in the next few minutes or so, and no doubt bringing us up to date on what we can expect during the coming hours. But what you're looking at in Santa Monica has also been taking place in Long Beach this afternoon. We have a huge crowd out in front of City Hall downtown, where the National Guard are actually surrounding that building and making sure that people do not come up and get into the City Hall and the city-owned businesses up there. But this is the type of thing that's been going on for a number of hours now in various parts of our community. And people are being warned just to stay inside. The curfews are in effect, but obviously not everybody is adhering to those curfews, and this is likely to go on for the next several hours.
And you saw in that previous shot where all of those people were getting the goods out of that box. clear as day, some faces walking away with no masks on, but huge smiles on their face. It's like that person, the one that I'm thinking of, is going to be completely recognizable. Should he be arrested and this video be attached to that and prosecuted?
All right, the people in Long Beach, I think, right now are speaking. If we could get them up on our screen and listen in, we want to hear what they're saying from Santa Monica, excuse me. Do we have it, guys?
Thank you. I want to start out by saying thank you for tuning in to our press conference tonight. The city of Santa Monica is really a city of with two stories tonight. On the one hand, we are a city that stands up against intolerance and hate, that has a resident and business community that has long stood against intolerance and hate and has been deeply hurt by what we have seen in Minneapolis. We understand the emotions that we are all experiencing throughout our community, and we want to send a message of unity and love throughout our community. We welcomed peaceful protesters into this town this morning, and they, by and large, were very peaceful. The second story that's happening in the city is a story of looting and crime, and that is a story that is now going to end. We understand that this peaceful protest was not part of the looting that has been occurring. The protest is now over. Our curfew is in place, and it is time for everyone to go home and to stay home. If you are watching this broadcast and you know someone who is on the streets in this county, in this city, you need to reach them and tell them to get home, because we are now getting to a point where we need to provide safety throughout this community, and we are doing that. We are committed to providing timely information to you throughout this evening. If you have any emergency that you need addressed that is a threat to your personal health or safety, you may use 911. Please refrain from using 911 for any other reasons. What is happening on the streets now is not in the hands of the protesters, but it is in the hands of all of us if we go home and stay home. We want you to do that. We want you to send that message to your loved ones. We want you to take this seriously. That is the job that everyone in this county can do for each other. That is how we can support our neighbors at this time. Take it seriously. Thank you.
I would now like to welcome up our Chief of Police, Cynthia Renaud. That is CYNTHIARENAUD. Chief.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to take a quick second and apologize for the earlier press conference that we put out that might have seemed a little bit short. There's actually nobody here but us and a camera person, so it is difficult to have a press conference when there's no one here to ask questions, and I think it made our press conference look short. So along with what we're dealing with, we do still have COVID-19, and so there are no reporters here. Currently in the city of Santa Monica, we're working to bring about and restore peace and end the criminal activity. We are being aided and assisted by our fellow law enforcement agencies in Los Angeles County, to whom we are extremely grateful for their dedication, their energy, and their commitment to our community. We are making arrests as we speak. The 4 p.m. curfew is in place. We have additional squads rolling in. If you all have been watching the news, you will know that Santa Monica is not alone in the county in this problem today. Resources have been deployed, and all of the LA County agencies are sharing to try and help each other. There have certainly been issues in other cities that have now been have gotten some control, and so even more resources are coming to the city of Santa Monica. So as I said, we're currently making arrests. We have no officers injured. At this moment in time, I don't know of any of the criminal activity of any of those suspects being injured. That is information that it will take me a little bit of time to compile as we work through this. But again, my message from the Santa Monica Police Department and really from all the LA County law enforcement agencies is to obey the curfew orders that are in place in our city and in yours. Please stay safe, and we will get through this. Thank you very much.
I'd now like to welcome up our Deputy Chief of the Santa Monica Fire Department. That is Judah Mitchell. That's JUDAHMITCHELL. Thank you, Judah.
Thank you. And once again, I'd like to remind the community that Santa Monica Fire Department goal with this dynamic event is to protect life and property in the community. Please, as everyone's mentioned, follow the curfew. We're working with PD and our other area agencies, fire departments here helping us. We're deployed throughout the city. We've had 9 fires to date. We don't have any active fires burning at this time. Please refrain from, please refrain from dialing 911 unless it's a life-threatening emergency. We do not want to overburden the 911 system. So go home, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Chief. With that, I just want to remind the public about the ways that they can stay informed at this time. Please sign up for Santa Monica emergency alerts at santamonica.gov/alerts. We also encourage you to follow us on Twitter. That's Santa Monica City. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. That is City of Santa Monica. We're committed to providing timely information. We are going to have another update on the 9 o'clock hour here. But with that, we will take a couple of questions. Do we have any questions? Matt Hall with the Santa Monica Daily Press. I'm going to let the police chief step up.
Matt, I don't know if the National Guard is here right now, but they are on their way. I don't have that count right now, and the arrests are ongoing as we speak. It's both. You know, Matt, actually, I shouldn't speak to that specifically. I don't know. I saw all the arrests taking place myself as I was coming here to the station to answer this. So it looked to me as if it was mostly for criminal activity because that's what we're focusing on.
Yes, there are 9 fires. So there were 4 structure fires, 4 car fires, and then 1 was a dumpster. Do you know which structures they were? I do. Can you tell us which structures they were? They were throughout the city, so we hit different ones. It'd take a little while to tell you because they're basically addresses. Do you know how many of them were in the downtown area? Most of them were downtown. Do you know specifically if there was a fire-related structure outside the downtown area? There were car fires outside the downtown area.
Still showing lots of restraint on the part of Long Beach Police Department. Again, this is the intersection of Pine and Broadway, but this crowd is getting much more aggressive. There are several people in this crowd armed with Roman candles and shooting fireworks in the direction of law enforcement, and there's been a couple of scuffles breaking out with him in the crowd. So you see what was a largely peaceful crowd still trying to, it's a group that's divided between peaceful protesters and other agitators who are trying to get into those officers' face and trying to start something. Now, again, those officers showing lots of restraint, but when they have fireworks being shot in their direction with a Roman candle or some pushing and shoving starts, that's when you see the animation pick up. At one point, a girl used her sign to get in one of those officers' faces. He basically just ripped the sign out of her hand and eliminated that. So you can see things getting pretty testy here. We're going to keep an eye on it for you. Again, a couple of hundred people at the intersection of Pine and Broadway here in Long Beach.
And, just a couple of minutes ago, about 5 minutes ago, we saw this man almost, it looked like he was just trying to fight people, and it looked like somebody who we've been seeing try to incite violence. I don't know if you recall that.
Fireworks as well. He was shooting fireworks at the police, but then he seemed intent on brawling with somebody. Did you see that?
Yeah, some folks tried to stop him. Somebody tried talking to him. A few more protesters approached him. That's him right there in the Dodgers shirt. You can see the Roman candle
the white
in
long
his hand.
sleeve shirt with a hood on.
The white long sleeve Dodgers shirt. That's him.
And then he has this device that shoots fireworks. It's like a long skinny tube. I think he has it tucked in his pants. But
he does.
I've been watching your camera, and every now and then when somebody goes up to him to try to stop him from doing something, he swings at him aggressively.
He did. He actually pointed the Roman candle at one of the other protesters as if he was going to shoot it at one of the protesters.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, and he seems intent on violence, even though right now he's having a good time with his buddies, and he seems to enjoy the attention he's getting. But and
he's certainly getting the attention. Every time he fires it, he gets the attention of those police officers, and that's when things start getting aggressive. He's instigating a confrontation between the peaceful protesters and the Long Beach Police Department.
Yeah, a couple of times we saw him really take really big swings at different people who come up and say something to him and tell him to put that away. I don't think he's hit anybody yet, but he's a dangerous character. I guess we'll put it at that. But he's one of many things that's going on right there as you continue to watch the situation. This is, again, happening in Long Beach.
Yeah, now this is over, well, this is the same group, I'm sorry. This is one of two groups that have gathered here. By the way, take a look at Pine. This is just lined with patrol vehicles. You can see one of our live trucks on that block there, and we certainly hope. See, this is one of the things that we've been seeing, that we saw yesterday that actually ended up causing lots of damage to the patrol cars in Los Angeles, very close to the vicinity of this group of protesters. Again, two groups, one on the south side, that's going to be Pine and Broadway. This is a more scattered group at Pine and 3rd, 1 block north. They appear to be very peaceful. In fact, look at the space that they're giving the police. You can see they're respecting the space. They're holding up their signs. They're chanting. They're making their point. Long Beach Police forming 2 separate skirmish lines to keep them away from the other crowd. Again, one of the big goals when they have these big groups or multiple groups is to prevent them from merging. Because as it merges, it gets more heated and the threat increases. So you try and keep those large groups separate. You let them exercise their free speech. But this crowd here appears dramatically more tame, I guess you would say, than the other group. We'll go ahead and tilt down below. Again, that's 1 block south at Pine Avenue and Broadway.
All right, so Chris has continued to scour the situation in Long Beach. As you could see, things turn on a dime here, so we're going to watch this closely. But we didn't have the opportunity, Veronica and I, to kind of debrief you on what's happening in Santa Monica with that press conference that we just got. So they did confirm that there were 9 fires in their community today. 4 of them were building fires, 4 were car fires, and 1 was a dumpster fire. We're happy to report that no officers were injured in today's situation, but they are making arrests tonight when it comes to the protesters that are still on the street. They didn't give us a number, but it is underway right now. There you see video, this is from Santa Monica, of the looting that has been taking place. They acknowledged that during the press conference as well, and they did confirm and reiterated the fact that they do understand that these looters are not protesters. They're certainly using the protest as an opportunity to get away with this merchandise, but they are not protesters, and they did clarify that and distinguish that in the press conference. That was good to hear from them. Okay. Go ahead, Veronica.
Yeah, we're hearing that possibly the CVS there in Long Beach may have been set on fire. We see a few fire trucks out there. Chris, are you hearing anything?
We've got a fire in Long Beach. You're looking at Long Beach Boulevard and 6th Street. It will go ahead and tilt down a little bit. We saw some thick black smoke coming from the front of the CVS, which obviously has been looted, and somebody has set the place ablaze. It does look like they may be getting ready to enter, but the fire department has just arrived here. The smoke is dissipating a little bit, but if you look very closely there is still smoke coming from the front door underneath the plywood. This is a CVS that's already been boarded up. again at Long Beach Boulevard and 6th Street. A new fire here in Long Beach.
All right, Chris, we're going to have you keep watching this. We know this situation is so complicated, and we want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to make your voice heard. So head to abc7.com. Tell us why you protest. Upload a video or a photo or a picture. Write us a paragraph. We hope to share some of your responses on the air and online as we continue to distinguish and separate the protests and the violence that is happening here.
All right, we want to take you now to downtown Los Angeles. Of course, we're staying on top of these other issues, but downtown LA, Rob McMillan has been watching and standing with protests that so far has been peaceful right in front of City Hall. Rob?
Yes, and it continues to be peaceful at this point, but the crowd just moved from the front of City Hall to protest toward the National Guard. We were speaking with 4 or 5 people about what brought them out here and why they were out here and what is on their mind, what is on their heart right now. And I asked all of them, what do you think of the National Guard being here? And several of them said they don't need to be here. They're just here for a show of force. They feel threatened by us. They're here to threaten us. There appears to be a lot of anger toward the National Guard here as well. Although I did speak with one gentleman who lives here in downtown Los Angeles, and he says, you know, they're just here to do a job like the rest of us. So you can see this crowd of several hundred people. Sorry for some of what you see on the signs, but that's an admonition we feel like we've been giving for the past several days. Pretty peaceful protest at this point. No justice, no peace is what they're chanting right now. I did speak with one lady who brought her 5-year-old daughter here. And I said, well, what are you going to do if this thing gets violent? She says, we're going to leave, but I wanted my daughter here to see what we're fighting for. Back to you.
All right, Rob, we are going to come back to you in downtown Los Angeles. Meanwhile, we're going to head over to Leanne Suter in Santa Monica, who is with our sheriff, Alex Villanueva. Leanne.
Yeah, that's right, Veronica. Joining me now is Sheriff Alex Villanueva here for LA County Sheriff Department. He has just come into the command post here at Santa Monica. Sheriff, I know you've just entered the scene here. Talk to me about what your sense is of what you are seeing happening here in Santa Monica and now across the county.
Well, we've seen the images that have been broadcast across the media in different areas. Last night it was in the Fairfax, West Hollywood, Beverly Hills. Now today, Santa Monica, we have Long Beach, we have concerns in the Citadel and Commerce.
We will deploy resources out to that area to actually manage it and control that freeway. We definitely encourage people to voice and utilize that First Amendment right, but the freeway is definitely not some place to do that. There's a lot of inherent dangers there, and we definitely don't want a whole new set of issues to occur.
We're focusing on the Santa Monica area around the 4th Street exit, but what other locations are hot spots for you? We know there's some activity down in Long Beach where the on-ramps were closed.
Yeah, we're trying to assist some of these cities that have these early curfews. What we're doing is we're trying to assist them in managing the off-ramps that allow people to enter those cities. We're keeping the on-ramps open so that people can actually exit the city. So that they can adhere to these curfews.
Sarge, we're watching as on screen as police take into custody a number of protesters. They have them lying prone on the ground right now at a couple of different intersections in Santa Monica. Is the CHP actively taking part in this arresting process, or are you out on the periphery kind of making sure that the streets and the highways stay safe?
That's correct, sir. We're trying to manage those access ways. Everybody's has a logistics problem they're trying to deal with, and right now just keeping those freeways closed and keeping those protesters from entering seems to be a big chore for us at this time.
And is that your plan throughout the rest of the evening? Are you going to be taking up positions at various ramps around the town, making sure that traffic is kept to a minimum?
Correct. Anywhere where protesters are making their way or threatening to access the freeways, we'll make every effort to deploy resources to maintain and keep those freeways free for pedestrians.
Well, Sergeant, we are not out of the woods yet as far as these protests being over. There's a silent sit-in protest tomorrow scheduled, but this could go on. So looking overnight and in the days ahead, how are you talking to your crew? Are you having them on overtime? Is all hands on deck, like just to be ready to go?
Correct. My understanding is the entire state's been placed on tactical alert. All days off have been canceled, and right now our shifts are working 12 and a half hours per day.
And Sergeant, before we let you go, the National Guard is here and they're staged at the Convention Center. Will you be escorting the Guard through the city tonight, or is that something that they do on their own?
I'm not sure how that logistically is going to work out. I don't know what role the CHP is going to have in that as well. But like anything, we are a state agency, and we are always willing to assist. And if that means assisting the National Guard from point A to point B, we can definitely help out with that.
All right, Sergeant Luis from the CHP, we appreciate you joining us. Be safe out there tonight, Sarge.
Thank you, sir. You do the same.
Wow, and on the left of your screen, we just saw those two people jump the fence, and it didn't seem like they had any idea that the truck full of officers were coming, and now they're running off. We continue to...
Well, and not very chivalry. He just left his girlfriend behind to get arrested.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's
Shows
nice.
you what a coward he was.
And she's now being placed on her
Right.
face, and they'll be putting the ties, the plastic ties around
ties.
her wrists here in a few minutes. And you
he'll
hate
go
to
home.
chuckle at this type of thing, but you can see the character of some of the people that are out on the streets tonight. The young man just leaving his girlfriend.
We don't know
to
if they were
face
dating. They could be friends.
Well, that's
But
not a very
still,
good friend.
It's not, yes, not very
In any
chivalrous.
case, he left the woman behind and let her be arrested. But again, we're looking at arrests being made in Santa Monica. We heard some of the city officials not too long ago coming on and just saying, okay, enough's enough. They've watched the looting, the peaceful demonstrations from earlier today that turned bad as the afternoon went on. We have already seen a number of people being arrested, several dozen. Now they're moving into some of the side streets now on the right side. This is the huge gathering.
One of them has now been taken into custody. Did the other guy get away?
We are near Santa Monica High School as we see this here. Remember, there is a curfew in effect. They are saying you will be arrested. They are effecting arrests, as they say right now.
But the fact that they climbed over the fence there made you believe that they maybe were involved in some sort of suspicious activity. Who knows? You see that chopper. All right, so the tension continues in Santa Monica tonight. Let's go to Bill Malusian, check in with him for the first time. I know, Bill, you've been focused on one store where you saw an actual arrest take place.
Alex, that's exactly right. We saw a looter actually get taken down by LAPD a short time ago. So we're at Wilshire and 26. There's a New Balance store on the corner. We saw a group of looters breaking in. They tried to flee. They got into a car and took off, but they left one guy behind who wasn't fast enough. LAPD saw and began pursuit. If we can pull up that video right now, we'll show it to you. We started rolling as soon as we saw LAPD see them. You're going to see an LAPD cruiser immediately take off after one of the looters who was running on foot, trying to get away. He tries to turn a corner. LAPD catches up to him. They get out, and he immediately surrenders and gets taken down without incident. Now, I had the chance to interview this guy just a short time ago, and he was very candid about why he's out here. Take a listen to what he had to say. All right, man, we saw you at the New Balance store. Why you out here?
Man, period, point blank, just like all my real ones trying to get some money. Explanation, that's it. Trying to get some dough, that's it.
Just out here for the money?
Yeah, pretty much.
Anything to do with the protests, what happened in Minnesota?
I mean, a little bit to do with that too, you feel me? But not really. I'm out here for the dough.
Was it worth it?
Obviously not. I'm out here hemmed up. Yeah, y'all see it. Man, if y'all gonna get some money, do it right. Don't do it the dumb way. Do it the smart way. Yeah.
Thanks for your time, man. Best of luck to you. And guys, that guy was actually very refreshingly honest, explaining exactly why he's out here. He said he's not hiding behind the protest. He said, look, essentially he's an opportunist. He wanted to come out here for the money, and he realizes he made a mistake. LAPD spent a little bit of time with him, trying to talk to him, saying, hey, man, you can't be doing this. You got to turn things around. You don't go down this path. And he seemed to acknowledge it. He shook his head, said he understood, but he was cited and released. He was not taken to jail. The police officers told us there's just no capacity right now. This was in Santa Monica's jurisdiction. They said they have their hands full. There's no one to come pick him up. So LAPD just had to cite him and release him. We'll send it back to you.
I'm just looking at the shop behind you, the Pacific dining car. That looks a little weathered there. The awning there. Is everything okay with that business?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, nothing has happened to this business. It happened just down the street from us. Our cable just can't reach that far at the moment. Where you see those guys at the bus stop, there's a New Balance store to the left. That's where the windows are broken out. That's where we saw the looters. Yeah. All of them got away except the one we interviewed. They got away in a car. Wow. He told us he lives in San Bernardino, and he apparently came out here with a bunch of buddies.
Huh.
Wow, that is amazing to see. And so I mean, essentially, even though they caught him, really, like, no consequences?
Essentially, unless you consider a citation a consequence, which most people probably won't. Yeah, they said, look, Santa Monica PD is just really slammed right now. We haven't seen any Santa Monica police in this area. We're further inland, kind of right by the border of West LA and Santa Monica. All we've seen out here is LAPD. So they said, look, yeah, we're LAPD. We made the arrest, but this is Santa Monica's jurisdiction. They don't have the capacity to come pick them up right now because we still see all the helicopters down there by the promenade area and all that. They're busy. So we have to let him go. And he just walked down the street that way and promised he wasn't going to do it again. So.
Let's hope let's hope he doesn't. Wow. Meanwhile, you're talking about the arrests of Santa Monica PD. Let's go to the Skyfox picture full. We do see more arrests that are underway right now in Santa Monica. This is we're technically under that curfew as we bring up sort of the key points of this hour. Now 7:30, Alex Michelson with Christine Devine on Fox 11. That curfew is now in effect for all of Los Angeles County, where we have seen widespread looting. Santa Monica City Hall, among those things that was vandalized, although I think it may have been really the courthouse that was more of a target than Santa Monica City Hall. We have seen some peaceful protests, and we have seen some looting in the process.
It is only 7:30 on a Sunday night. It feels like we have been on the air forever as we are watching more arrests in Santa Monica. They had put out the warning that you would be arrested if you're on the streets. That curfew went into effect at 4 p.m. So you have to wonder, did these people, as we heard from Phil's live shot, some said they didn't know it was 4 p.m. I'm wondering if others did, and they want to be arrested to make that statement throughout their protest or whatever they're doing here on the streets.
And you also wonder how many of these people are actually from Santa Monica. As Bill just mentioned, that one guy said that he was from San Bernardino. Earlier, Phil interviewed somebody who said he was from Indiana. So you wonder how many of these people have come into Santa Monica, may not be as aware of all the local rules there, maybe not spending a lot of time watching us as they've been trying to loot throughout the day. And now we finally see some arrests after a lot of hours of not seeing arrests. The question is, and Bill's live shot just pointed this out, okay, now they're arrested, what happens now? Do they just release them? And how good is this arrest if there's nothing more that comes with it? So now we are going, where are we going, guys? We're going to Christina Gonzalez, who's in downtown Los Angeles, where we have seen a large police presence in place. Christina.
Yes, and actually, remember I told you a little while ago that if they were going to try to move these people, Metro would be the ones to do it? Well, that's what you're seeing at right now. Behind the crowd is Metro beginning to organize itself to possibly, and I'm going to say possibly because it has not been decided, but since it is after the curfew and people are refusing to leave, they have brought out some of the units. They kind of set themselves up on that side of the, the area in front of City Hall. At this point, there have been no arrests. There has been no violence. There's just a lot of confrontation, as it were. You might notice that behind the people from Metro who are trying to possibly explain to some of the protesters that they should go home is the National Guard. And they are present in downtown Los Angeles, definitely ready to be on a supportive role to law enforcement if they need it. At this point, I can tell you that that is the street in front of City Hall. City Hall itself, if I can turn you around, Dave, let's go this way. Bear with us and don't get, you can see over here, that's the area we showed you earlier. They moved away. They were able to get them away from that barricade, which they were pushing forward. And City Hall, these guys are not going to move from here. The whole point here is to defend City Hall throughout the night, and they will be posted here. But if they want to clear the street in front of City Hall, which is Spring Street.
What makes this piece of video different and why we want to show it to you is to show you the looters' reaction when the law enforcement shows up to the front door of this store. Again, the store is called Outfitters. You'll see law enforcement show up there. We thought that they were there to actually start arresting people who were looting, and you see the reaction of the looters as they desperately try to get away. The bottom line to this is, yes, their presence, the police presence, was notable. And the people who were looting inside tried to get out, and the ones who couldn't go out the front door desperately tried to get out in another way. And you're going to see that in just a second. But you'll notice that a single arrest was made right there in that front door, Veronica, and I'll let you in on it. No arrests were made, period, when it comes to looting.
Yeah, they really just kind of were there to make sure that people knew they were there. And then there were people who were stuck inside that Outfitter store, breaking through the windows and climbing down the plywood so that they could get out and escape because those officers were still guarding the front entrance. And yet those officers were right there watching these guys throw piles of clothing out onto the street, continue to escape. And I know that the photographer is going to pan over here in just a minute, and you can see the officers just watching as these people emerge from the store right there.
There's that shot. So we've been watching this repeatedly. We think it's a fascinating shot. We have not received any information yet that looters have been arrested tonight or today at all, but we'll stay on top of that. In the meantime, we want to say this. We want to take a moment to check in with our Inglewood community journalist, Ashley Mackey.
And she spoke to members of her community to get reaction on what's unfolding and how everyone is feeling in the aftermath of George Floyd's death.
There's a lot of emotion right now across the country. As the Inglewood community journalist, I reached out on social media to have people send me their perspective and to give people an opportunity to speak. The overall emotions were feelings of anger,
it seems like
sadness,
many of the people who were protesting when the curfew came into effect did go away or go home, leave the area. We're told that the National Guard is on their way to Santa Monica. We saw them earlier in Mid-City prepping. We knew some of them were being deployed to downtown LA, but we hadn't seen any of them in Santa Monica at all. 9 fires were reported. The Santa Monica Fire Department got 9 calls about fires. 4 of them were structures. It was the Saki House, I believe, that restaurant that was on fire. We know that was one of them. And then there were 4 cars that were set on fire and 1 dumpster. But currently they are all put out, no active fires. And the goal here is to restore peace. Tomorrow the city is going to clean up and they're going to try to get back to business as much as they can. That's according to the officials that we heard from a short time ago.
Yeah, let's go up to Derek Bell. He's in Sky 5, and we see a number of demonstrators off to the left there sitting on the sidewalk. Derek?
That's right. They've got a number of people that are in custody right now.
Within the last hour said, we're going to enforce it. This is over. Go home. Get out of our city. It's time to go. And if you don't listen, we're going to arrest you. And it appears that now they are giving that show of force. It may be 6 or 7 hours too late for some people, but at least it is happening now.
I'm wondering, too, Alex, if you have these arrests, whether there are severe consequences or not, depending on what they get them on or not, does this go on your record then? Does this stay with you?
That's the question, and what they will be arrested for. That has not been the case in several places. Let's go to Susan here, Asuna in Long Beach, where there's been a development. Susan.
All right, we are, Alex and Christine, we are at in Long Beach, not far from where we were before. I'm trying to find the intersection, but you see here, this is a store called Easy Fit, and what's interesting is you can see people just running in and grabbing merchandise and running out. This store here, they actually put up boards where it says expressly Black-owned, Black Pride, but that has not stopped anybody from going inside, and it is just chaotic to say the least. It's surreal to see people walking out with their masks on, some without masks on, some are driving up. Look at this situation right here. The guy says, hey, open the car. And he's got an armful of stuff and he's putting it into the car, and it's as if he just had a nice little shopping trip. Oh, I guess he's going back. And then he picked up a pair of jeans that he lost and he's going to go back in. No problem whatsoever.
Christina.
And it's just
Susan.
Sorry, Susan.
Surreal, to say the least. Okay. As we keep watching them and they go inside, and what's interesting, this is one of those live-work situations where you got the store downstairs and then upstairs there are people living in these apartments, and they're just like looking over their balconies to see what's going on. And and I see a man up at the very top, and he's shaking his head like he can't quite believe it himself. But meantime, you know, they're taking the hangers, they're taking boxes and boxes, and again, some with masks. And I know we were talking about how coronavirus may or may not affect this, but
wow.
Oh, that was another nice little skateboard.
Look at that.
It's someone using their skateboard to have a wider entry, I think, into the store. Meantime, I think once people find out that there is a store that they can gain entry into, then it brings people out and they head closer and run into the store. You know, some people are coming out with one item and others are coming out with armfuls. It's just really remarkable that there doesn't seem to be any fear at all that the police are going to come along. In fact, I don't see any police at all. We just left them at another location, not even a block away, and here we see all of this.
What has happened to our society where this is okay and this is happening in so many places? What has happened to the morals that we teach children, to the churches, to the institutions in society? What has happened to our society that all across the country, so many people think that it is okay to go and to steal? This is the basic things that your parents teach you when you're a little kid in a sandbox. Don't take from others. And all of these people completely disregard all of that.
Now look over here. There's some, I don't know what's going on over here. Let's very carefully, Carlos, walk over here as we see either a smoke bomb or something that went off just recently. So you see there's two entry points into this store. One is actually pretty wide, which is why they're allowed to bring out like huge boxes worth of merchandise. And surreally, I see some other people who I think live nearby and are strolling by trying to check out like what is happening exactly. And at the same time, coming to this location, we walked by another store where the glass door was broken, and there was I believe a store owner that was standing in front of it. So I think he was keeping people out. But this is the catnip, right? This is much more appealing because it's a huge store. So this one is called Easy Fit. It says Black-owned. Maybe I'm mistaking this one for the other one, because this store is called Jean Machine, and it has a lot of appealing logos with, Vans up the wall.
Oh. You okay, Susan?
Okay, I was a little too close to that.
Are you okay?
I'm okay, but I am okay, but I heard the concussion. And Carlos is not okay.
Okay.
Carlos,
All right.
my photographer, is down.
Oh, okay. Susan, please take care of yourself.
Take care of Carlos.
Do what you need to do.
And get back to us and let us know if there's anything we can do to help him.
Gosh. That is one of the biggest concerns right there as our crews are out there on the streets trying to cover this story, and that is their own personal safety. It seemed to be okay in that location as there was pretty much absolute mayhem as people were there looting that business. We can only pray for Susan and Carlos and pray that he's okay. I hope she gets back to us quickly with a positive update. Wow.
That's such a scary thought, and so many of our reporters who have been working so tirelessly and putting themselves in harm's way to get this story out there. And Christine, I really am having a hard time processing what we're seeing. I'm having a hard time processing what led to this moment in this country, that that so many people out there have made the decision that they think that this is okay, and that they're not embarrassed to do it, that there are cameras there catching them, some of them not even wearing masks, just walking out almost proud of it, that people are posting this to social media. I don't understand.
Let me tell you how this played out after the 1992 riots. So you had a night or two of unrest, and then you had...
Just real quick, not to interrupt you, we just heard that our camera guy got up, Carlos, and he's okay. Important for our viewers that are concerned about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to know that information.
Yeah.
Okay, so Carlos is going to be okay, is okay. All right, so you asked about what's happening to our society. So the way it played out in the 92 riots is we saw the destruction, we saw the devastation, we heard of loss of life, we saw these visuals, and then there was a moment to actually talk to people who were trying to calm the streets, whether it was going live from the First AME Church, where people had gathered there. The church leaders spoke out. Celebrities who belong to the church or who support the church stood up to talk and speak out. They went out on the streets to say to young people, calm down. Young people, go home. I think right now it's still very fresh. We're still at some of these very strong visuals here. We're still seeing things that are so extremely shocking. We're still bringing live information. But I can tell you, I know people who are already on the ground trying to bring the communities together. I'm thinking of Faithful Central Church that had their service online today talking about the issue of racism and how to come together. But let's check back in with our reporter, Susan Hirosuna, on the ground with the update on our photographer, Carlos. Susan, go ahead.
All right, we just are moving ever so slightly to get to this corner so that you can see the front door of the Gene machine. Carlos did lose his balance and was on the ground once that concussive explosion occurred. It was thrown right into the street, and it was close enough to me that I could feel that effect, you know, on the air. When you have something explode like that, there is definitely concussive waves, sound waves that come at you, and I could feel that. I felt like I was a little closer to it, but Carlos was greatly affected by it. Meantime, as you see here in the front of the store, this is a huge store because we keep seeing people come out with more and more merchandise, and again, some with masks and plenty of others who seem to be thinking it's a great day to go shopping. And if you think about it, so many of us have been told to stay home and that we'd be safer at home, and we were not able to shop, and now it looks like all bets are off. The store is wide open and people feel like it is absolutely okay. And again, this is one of the stores where it seems to have well, maybe not. I thought there was a sign that sort of suggested that this was a black-owned store. That may or may not be the case. So, meantime, we continue to watch people pour in. It's almost like the word gets out and then people make their way there. And there is enough traffic here. It's just wild because people are pulling up so that they can load up their Can you talk to me? You want to talk to me? Did you go inside?
No, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
That's why I want my business online. This is so sad. Yeah, you can protest, but when you got to break into people's business and destroy everything, it's so sad. I just don't get it.
Are you a resident of Long Beach?
No, I'm not.
Where are you from?
I'm from Los Angeles.
You're from Los Angeles?
Yes.
And so when you look at this, I mean, I've been describing
it's sad. It's really sad. It's really sad because it's like people work too hard to do this. Come out to their business, don't have anything. Like, come on now. Y'all got to be real. Look, Y'all have to be real.
What happened to thou shalt not steal?
Huh?
What happened to that basic principle? Don't steal.
But karma is a mud. So you feel me? Whatever you sow, you're going to get it back 10 times harder. So that's on them.
Okay. Well, do you see any justification for this at all?
No. What are you getting up out of here?
Yeah. But
Nothing.
meantime, lots of people are, they look like they're having a day at the shopping mall.
Yeah, but it's a lot of people who can't afford this stuff. So they rather do this. A lot of people who can't afford it rather do this.
Yeah.
And this is what they doing.
Are you okay? Are you safe? Because they're throwing flashbang type bombs and the like.
This is ridiculous.
Hey, y'all.
Okay.
Hey, the homie Sam got insurance.
Okay.
And Long Beach is known to be a...
Susan, Carlos just gave us an artistic, fantastic shot after getting up from all of that, showing us those Black Lives Matter sign just above, because this is a place where people live. There it is up there. They're up peacefully protesting. I mean, the contrast between that, trying to make that message of Black Lives Matter, and then underneath just the complete opposite of that message. All of these folks just having their way with the gene machine.
But remember, Alex, we are drawing the distinction between those people who side with Black Lives Matter and are mourning the death of George Floyd, and those people who are disruptors, who are anarchists, or who believe that it is perfectly okay to walk into somebody's store and take all of their merchandise. Someone just walked by me and says, "Hey, remember, this guy, whoever the store's owner is, has insurance, so not really a problem." But I'm telling you, for all of these people that are coming here and just taking advantage of the situation, there definitely are people here who are just shaking their heads, and they can't believe, like us, that you could be so cavalier about this and just walk in like, well, as has been said more than once, that there is this kind of lawlessness.
And this guy's putting on a skateboarding show like this is a party. I mean, a lot of these guys, it looks like a celebration that's underway.
Absolutely. Big smiles on their faces if they're not wearing the masks as they come out, and yet more and more people are coming to get more material, more merchandise.
Susan?
Susan,
we're going to step away,
I've never
Susan.
seen anything like this.
Thank you.
And what is your name? Are you from the Long Beach area?
Long Beach, Carson. It's always been like that. It's just shit like this. It doesn't. I'm sorry. Situations like this don't happen.
All right, we're going to go back to Susan in a moment. Phil Schuman, we believe you have the sheriff of L.A. County with you.
That's right. We're live in Santa Monica with L.A. County Sheriff Alex Villanueva. Sheriff, I know you only have a couple of minutes, but what brings you here to Santa Monica?
Well, we're here to restore order and security of the community for the community members. So we're going to be here arresting looters. As you can see, we're rolling pretty deep, and we have an entire bus and a crew. So we're going to have to go. All right. So,
well, with respect, the looting happened hours ago.
Oh, they're still going on, and anybody who's out and about will be arrested.
All right. Thanks. Sheriff Alex Villanueva here personally. We saw LAPD Chief Michael Moore last night right out in the Fairfax district. Now you see the sheriff with his vest and his helmet on. Alex, I'm not sure what you and Christine are seeing. I have not heard of any active looting here in Santa Monica. I could be mistaken about that, but there's a huge amount of sheriff's deputies now flooding into this area.
Well, you know, that bus we're seeing right there, Phil, I can imagine is going to be to arrest the many people we've seen. We've seen a number of people in the zip tie handcuffs. You know, the sheriff has been so good to speak with Fox 11 News on many occasions, including yesterday as well. Yeah. Obviously, he felt very busy today. So quite a presence there from the sheriff's department where you are, Phil.
Yeah. We're actually in a lot that belongs to the Santa Monica Big Blue Bus Company at 6th and Colorado, and this has been a staging area for the law enforcement and the fire department's response. We've seen just this huge amount of vehicles coming and going here. And so within the past 15 minutes, the sheriff's, even more sheriff's deputies arrived, and you heard the sheriff to restore order, but
well,
is it late, Alex? You tell me.
Well, we could use his help in Long Beach right now, because your weekend co-anchor Susan Hirasuna has quite a scene that looks a lot similar to what we saw with you a few hours ago. Can we go back to Susan, because that was pretty.
Here's the national.
Oh, go ahead, Phil. Yeah.
Here's the National Guard. The National Guard troops arriving now as well. What time was it when we were here at 4th and Santa Monica where the store was being looted? That was about
4 hours ago?
6 hours ago?
Yeah, 4, 5, 6 hours ago.
5 or 6 hours ago.
Yep.
The National Guard's here now. As it gets dark, of course, we don't know what's going to happen, but the curfew enforcement has been pretty successful here in Santa Monica.
Well,
Wow.
Phil, once you had those reinforcements from the Sheriff's Department and that water cannon truck, and then you see this scene, Santa Monica now certainly a changed picture from what we saw earlier today. Phil, let me ask you, are you feeling calm? Are you feeling that order has been restored? As the sheriff says, we are here to restore order.
Well, from where I stand, yes. I mean, the crowds have been either left or taken into custody. I don't see any flames. I don't see any fires. There were, I think, 9 fires in Santa Monica earlier today. You know, as it gets darker, the people that are just here to enjoy Sunday are gone. So there you go. I mean, here's the National Guard. Hey, how are you? Can I ask you a quick question? We're live on Fox 11. Where are you from?
Burbank.
And what do you do when you're not in uniform?
I'm a full-time technician.
For the Guard?
Yes, sir.
So what is your mission? What are your marching orders?
You wonder if shop owners now are thinking, I'm going to arm myself and I'm going to be prepared for the next time.
There are some small business owners out there who are also black and brown, and they're immigrants, they're people of color. They own their small businesses. They are suffering too. They're in pain too. They're
barely getting by with what they have.
Yeah.
And to lose their merchandise and to lose their building, it sends the family in a tailspin that could go for generations.
Absolutely. It will be, it's yet to be seen if some of these businesses are unable to reopen, because this is truly the nail in the coffin after a couple of months of lost revenue due to
Could
the
very
pandemic.
well be. By the way, we're approaching 8 o'clock here. It's 7:57 right now. I want to give you a couple of programming notes. We are continuing our ongoing coverage of the widespread protests and unrest through Southern California tonight. So we're going to say goodbye to our viewers on KDOC, and on ABC7 we will continue our coverage of the protests. So we're giving you a couple of minutes to figure this out here if you're watching us from KDOC. If you're on ABC7, we're going to continue the coverage there of the protests. And you could watch ABC7 Celebrity Family Feud on Localish Network. That will be channel 7.2. Channel 7.2, our Localish network. And on these channels on your screen,
making entry into this store, but we were trying to frankly figure it out as to why there was suddenly this exodus, and the rumor was that somebody yelled cops, and it does seem sort of odd that we haven't seen any cops. Meantime, that original group of protesters that we were standing alongside at 3rd and Pine, they sort of marched away from that location where we had shown you the armored vehicles, and we followed them here, but frankly, they weren't a part of this group of looters. They continued on this street, whatever street I'm on, I can't quite figure it out. They kept going, and then they came back. And one of them sort of chastised me for not paying attention to the protesters that were peaceful. And I pointed out that we were there, But then this happened, and it is quite the scene. It's interesting to hear some of these looters say things like, I need to find my everyday shoes, and then see them come out with boxes and boxes, and if they have coordinated it correctly, then somebody in a car pulls up. Oh, I'm hearing they're coming. So, oh yeah, I can see down the street there's a police vehicle heading this way, and we don't know if this is the ultimate target, but somebody just yelled out to warn people, and so now they're leaving as quickly as they have arrived and poured in. Of course, there's a lot of traffic in this intersection, so it's going to take a minute for the vehicle with its lights flashing to actually make its way. Carlos, I don't know if you can see that vehicle down that way. So that is definitely creating a situation where people are trying to get away, get out of the store with all of their purloined purchases, or rather not purchases, purloined possessions, and get out of the store and get away from the police. They're not exactly trying to get here very quickly, but again, it does seem to be helping in terms of loosening up the traffic in this location. Again, I see that the vehicle's stopped. It's not really coming this way, and traffic is definitely moving in with the idea that the police are here and they want to make it here,
Susan,
make it to this store. So. Yeah,
good to see Carlos, our photographer, is okay getting us this video right now. Thanks very much for this coverage. If we get back to you, I would love to hear more from these people as to why they feel this is okay, why they're doing this. I'd love to hear it in their words. All right, Susan Hirasuna, thank you so much. We're going to begin more coverage here of Fox 11 News. A split tonight in Southern California.
4 o'clock rather in Santa Monica. These looters are continuing to stay in the area, and that has become the massive problem. The protest, the quiet protests, the calm protests have moved on. People have gone home, but these looters are at this point making a mess of the.
When I see it from 1,500 feet up, and you see it going on for minutes and hours over the course of the last 3 days, it just doesn't seem sustainable.
You're absolutely right about that, Chris. As we've been watching these images, it is incredible to see. It's sort of the scouting taking place with like a coordinated looking to see what businesses can be targeted, what windows can be broken, and how much stuff people can take. But what was kind of, we saw a moment ago, several people coming out of a shop with boxes of merchandise, and then when they saw authorities kind of pull up, they all kind of dropped them down very carefully, and then they tried to walk away nonchalantly. But I haven't seen a lot of police arresting or taking anyone in custody who they've been catching looting.
No, but the order has gone out. Or request, I suppose, from the Santa Monica police, at least there, to the LAPD, because LAPD has gone into Santa Monica on a mutual aid sort of assistance, that go ahead, start arresting people. They're asking for that assistance in Santa Monica. I don't know if a similar discussion is taking place right now in the city of Long Beach. We're not
loosened up a little bit. It was a lot more crowded where people were actually parking so that they could take their possessions, or their stolen possessions rather, and put them into a car. Now, some people are quite cavalier about just standing here. I see this young woman here. Would you mind if I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me what you have in your arm.
I don't know, something that somebody dropped. I just picked it up. I don't know what it is. Some shoestrings, but yeah. So I just picked it up off the ground. I didn't go in the store.
Right.
I don't agree. I don't like that they're doing it.
What is your reaction to this scene?
It's sad. It sucks that it's come to this, but Black Lives Matter. All lives matter.
What does one have to do with the other? What does stealing and destruction?
To be honest, nothing. It doesn't. Well, yeah, she's more political. Let her take the mic, because I'm not.
Well, what are you planning on doing with this stuff that you just picked up off the ground?
I don't know. I don't probably give it to the homeless. I work at a mental health, so probably pass it out to the homeless people.
What is your name?
Tanisha.
Do you want to make comment? You seem to have a point of view.
Honestly, honestly, I feel like people are protesting and rioting because our voices aren't heard when we're peaceful, so why not make a mess and destroy stuff? Then you guys will finally listen to us after all this time.
And how do you feel about, I mean, you don't look like you're participating.
I mean, I think it's sad, but what else can we do? Like, we tried to be peaceful, but you guys don't listen, so now this.
Okay, and what is your name?
Zamira.
Zamira, and are you a Long Beach resident?
Yes.
Okay, you live in Long Beach, and you don't want to participate, but you don't disapprove.
Yeah. I mean, I have mixed emotions about it, but yes.
All right, Zamira, thank you very much. Very well spoken. Someone who's decided she doesn't want to participate, but she's certainly not looking on and not feeling like this is wrong. I'm going to show you a brand new shoe. Let me bring this over to Carlos. So this is the kind of thing that's left over. Carlos, let me show you this shoe. So a brand new New Balance shoe. It's quite small, actually. That's it, just one shoe. So somewhere along the line, someone has a stolen shoe, but not the mate. So I guess it makes as much sense as anything else, breaking through to a store and having some people basically say, well, it's okay because the guy has insurance, perhaps. But just the scene by itself is very uncomfortable, to say the least, very not exactly what you would want to see. And would you want your grandmother to see you do this kind of thing? That's what I would like to ask these people.
Susan,
would your grandmother approve?
Yeah. We're going to stay with your picture here. I have some information.
That's a very good question. I mean, there's a gentleman here that, let me see if he'll talk to me.
Sure.
He has no merchandise, but he did go into the store. Do you want to talk to me?
Yes,
Can you keep it clean?
Yes.
Okay, good. What is your name, sir?
Antonio Singleton.
So I saw you go in, Antonio.
Yeah.
You did not come out with anything.
No.
How do you feel about this looting?
I feel like it's needed. It's the looting is not, ideal or nothing like that, but we have to get a point across. Unfortunately, buildings can be rebuilt, property can be rebought, but lives can be brought back, you feel me? So right now, everybody's hurting. There are some people taking advantage of it, but at the end of the day, there's people taking advantage of other people's lives, so
there's a lot of peaceful protesters that want to draw a distinction between their protesting against police brutality, and then the looters who seem to be just being anarchical. I mean, they just want to be disruptive and destructive. Do you see that distinction?
I see that distinction. There's definitely people out here for their own gain. That's very obvious. But there's also people out here who really trying to take a stand for all the social injustices going on right now. So unfortunately, the looting, people are always going to look at the looting part. They try to take the negative out of every story and try to personify that part. Right. But the message is clear that us as colored people are tired of all the discrimination, all the stuff that's going on. Of course, the looting is bad. Everything is bad. There's always some problem in everything. But, the real issue is the life being lost.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. You were very well spoken. Thank you. I really. Okay, so it's a little hard to control the language here.
We're doing the best we.
Back to you guys.
All right, Susan.
I have some information here from somebody who knows the owners of this business, and they wanted to point out that the people who own this Gene machine have worked, quote, so hard to build their business, serving all their neighbors with the best deal around. This person tells me it's taken several decades for Long Beach to build up downtown, bringing free events to the people. So this person seemed to be very concerned about what we're seeing here and concerned for the owners who have, she says, worked very hard to, quote, serve their neighbors and to be a part of the community. She also seemed to think that because the train comes into Long Beach, that not everybody there is from Long Beach.
Right. I mean, I think you have to, when you think about this and you think about the why, I mean, what is this moment in American history telling us about income inequality in our country, too? I mean, the chasm that has been growing for the last 50, 60 years in such a dramatic way, in the last couple months of people literally not making money. Have we reached a tipping point in this country on that, on issues of capitalism, on some of that. There's no part of me that is condoning this, but there is clearly something driving this. And the fact that people feel either desperate enough to do this or that this is okay from a moral perspective is an issue that we will need to address as a country going forward, because it's clearly a major, major issue.
And we've heard people say it, Alex, to get the message across is the reason why they feel the looting is part of what's happening here, part of the complaint, the message, the distraught, the anger about the death of black men.
But that is where I think a lot of people lose the majority of the country. Just from a political reporter's perspective, I think there's a majority of the country that believes that the George Floyd death was wrong, that there needs to be changes to prevent something like that from happening in the future. The leap is, okay, the response to that should be stealing something from an owner of the Gene Machine who has worked hard to build up that business. What did that person have to do with the Minneapolis police officer that killed George Floyd? And that leap is hard for a lot of people to make.
You heard the young man talking to Susan who said, you're always going to get the looting.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that don't want to accept that. Yeah. Let's go to Kevin Takumi, who's in Skyfox. He's over downtown LA, which so far has been peaceful. Does that continue now, Kevin?
For the most part here, this is a group that's been started, this little march here started southbound on Hill Street, coming down all the way down from the City Hall area. About 30 minutes ago, though, they had a shooting that happened in a couple of locations, one at 9th and Olive and the other one. And later they found one person that was struck by gunfire and pronounced dead here at the scene at Olympic and Hill. Now, LAPD, as well as you can see down below the National Guard has moved in here to protect that crime scene while they investigate that shooting. But they are trying to just hold people back. They are letting the march continue southbound on Hill Street here, and they're just trying to let everyone pass by. But this, it's, as far as we know, it's unrelated here to what's been going on. But officers, they brought in a lot of officers down here to kind of protect this crime scene. Once again, they did find a car at 9th and Olive that had some bullet holes in it, and then later they found this person that was on the sidewalk here suffering from gunshot wounds. And so the LA Police Department brought in mobile field force to kind of protect this crime scene, kind of keep the crowd moving down south. The National Guard here is on scene as well.
Still a reminder, though, Kevin, thank you so much, of how it is a dangerous night, and people are asked to be at home with this curfew. All right, Coco McAvoy live there in Santa Monica for us, who's been there all day, and now it's dark outside. Coco, what do you have?
So we're at Santa Monica and 4th, and as you can see what's unfolding here, the Sheriff's Department is moving in. There are a number of Sheriff's Department officers here, also with a vehicle, and a few minutes ago they were saying, move, let's go in. And as they started doing that, more people started clearing out from this area. So now it's become even more of a ghost town, and we're looking at the aftermath here. This is REI. That was the business from earlier that the woman defended. She risked her life to defend this store, and you can see that once she left, people were able to get inside of this store, unfortunately. And a few minutes ago, the fire department was also here because there was a fire that appeared to have started in here, and there was smoke billowing from REI. And right across the street, a restaurant also was set on fire. So the fire department was busy with that fire as well. But if we focus our attention now this way over here, you can see that more Sheriff's Department officers have entered the street. So now it appears they're making a formation going into the street to make sure that people are not here. And right before we got on air with you, we also saw 3 people get arrested. So the Sheriff's Department has been out here with force. You can see that they have a number of officers here, and they are really taking control of Santa Monica and trying to get the streets in order before nightfall.
Wow. Coco McAboy, thank you. I wanted to give a couple other notes for seeing some reports online that in Washington, D.C., the St. John's Church, which is right across the street from the White House, Christina, a church that's been there for 205 years, is on fire. This is a church that has hosted every president since James Madison. We've heard that the president had to be taken to an underground bunker there for his own safety at one point tonight. The lights have been turned off outside the White House that are usually on. So this is not the only place where we are seeing a lot of problems through the country tonight. Literally, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, they're having their own issues as well. Wow. We now look live overhead in Long Beach. And Leo, I want to bring you into the conversation Christine and I were just having. Leo Terrell, our civil rights attorney, Fox 11 legal analyst.
The students were reportedly in violation of a citywide curfew. Atlanta's mayor says the 2 officers have been fired. Back in Minnesota,
I would like to see the arrest of the 3 officers.
Where they need this stuff, they deserve this stuff, that they want this stuff. They don't see a moral problem with what they're doing, and that they feel okay and proud to be doing what they're doing.
I saw the interviews that Susan had of these 2 young people, and, you know, I've been fighting police misconduct for 25 years. I never had the motivation to rob and loot. I just find these people providing these excuses to justify criminal conduct is just appalling. And people of color, I mean, people, I have fought for civil rights for 25 years. I have fought against police misconduct for 25 years. Some of the most famous cases in the city of LA, Margaret Mitchell, the homeless woman. And when I hear young people who will take over the world, talking about justifying criminal conduct, it hurts. I'm asking myself, what have I done? Have I been a good role model? But I have never, during the course of my 25 years as a civil rights lawyer, which I am very proud of, I have never been motivated to rob and loot and justify as some type of nexus to this. It doesn't make sense.
Your perspective means so much. We're going to stand by and go live now to Long Beach. We are watching right now people trying to break into the, looks like the Ross store in Long Beach. Susan, are you with us?
Coming with baskets, and they'll be in soon.
Susan, go ahead.
All right. So you see here, we are out front of the Ross. This is across the street from the store that we were at previously. The window has already been broken, and slowly but surely they're making entry through the plywood. It's just a matter of continuing to kick at it, and slowly but surely they're able to get in. So people have come by, and they're ready to make their way inside and to get more stuff. So you see there, as soon as they know that it is open, then they run towards that little entry point. I actually saw a woman come and bring a basket, like a box, so that she could collect her stuff and pull it away. It's surreal. You know, it is just the wildest thing. There's a guy here with an empty bag waiting to get in. You need to get in? So, do you like what the hell going on? Okay, so they're in. People are making their way in right now. This is just bizarre. I mean, it is surreal for me to see this. And frankly, you know, Alex and Christine, you all know that typically there would be people that would not be happy with the fact that we're here with a camera, but they don't seem to mind at all. Now, part of it is, you know, thanks to the coronavirus pandemic, people have to be wearing a mask. And so that does help in terms of keeping their anonymity. And meantime, people are keeping an eye out for police, but there seems to be something that I don't know about that might be a little further east, because the police helicopter is focusing on that. Meantime, we're just out here, and at least a dozen people have made their way in. I wonder if they're going to be as aggressive as they were at that last store, as in like go in and go out, or if they're just going to take their time, as it seemed like we saw a couple scenes like that where people were a little bit more picky. And But I told you about that other scene in Beverly Hills. Oh my gosh, this guy's got a hammer with him, and he's just continuously
we have
chewing his way through that plywood.
Well, Susan, we've talked about
Okay,
many
police
of the
helicopter is now overhead.
many of the Antifa protesters often carry hammers with them in their bag of tools. Susan, I'm going to interrupt you for a second because now we have the chief of police of Long Beach with us on the line, Robert Luna. Chief, I think a lot of our viewers that are going to be watching this, and they understand what a challenge this is for you, but they're wondering as they watch looting live on the air, where are the police?
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me on. The Long Beach Police Department is out here. We are in multiple places in the city. Yes, we have a significant challenge tonight, but you know what? Our police officers and the many other police officers that have come into the city of Long Beach are going to be strong tonight, and they're going to get the job done. And we're going to be fine. But as you see with other cities...
Is this getting the job done, what we're looking at right now?
I'm sorry?
Is this what we're looking at? People literally breaking into a store and taking whatever they want. Is that getting the job done?
Well, I'm not sitting in front of a television at this second because I moved away from the command post to talk to all of you. But anytime you see anybody looting, that's a criminal act. And I got to be honest with you, it's kind of sad because as we prepared for this, we were hoping for peaceful protest to honor the life of George Floyd. And unfortunately, what we've seen is instigators who are out committing criminal acts and really taking away from what I believe is a very good message dealing with the death of Mr. Floyd.
Chief Luna, right now we are watching people who've broken into the Ross store. A woman is right in front of our news camera, not shy about showing part of her face. We watched them use a skateboard and just a hammer to break into the Ross. They are pouring into the Ross and coming out with clothing and supplies. I want to thank you for taking my request to call in. But here's my question for you. What is the strategy of the Long Beach Police Department as we've seen this looting?
It's to try and stop it and make arrests whenever we can. So I'll make sure, I just sent somebody out to make sure that they're aware of that location, and we'll send officers there if they're not on their way there to deal with it. But I've got to tell you, for all the people who are out here trying to do the right thing and protest the right way, please call us and let us know when this is happening. And you know what? We've got to remind each other that this is not sending the right message. This is criminal behavior, and we cannot tolerate it. For you in the media, us in policing, and just our community in general, this cannot be tolerated.
What are the consequences for these people? We've heard with some of the other police departments that they're basically so overrun that they're arresting and releasing people. If you find people that are looting, which by the way is happening right now live on our air, and you're able to get there, will these people be taken under arrest, and what is the punishment for this?
Yes, they will be arrested if they get caught looting, and there's a specific section for looting. That's not a cite and release. That charge is going to you're going to end up going to jail. And you're right to ask that question because I think us as a community are very frustrated, specifically with the zero bail. Because remember, when you're stealing, the theft of property is not a violent crime, and typically people don't get held in jail for that. But tonight, or any of these nights, as all of the officers in our region are dealing with this, people who are looting are going to go to jail.
All right, Chief Luna, as we're watching this, we want to make sure our crews are safe, and that's our reporter Susan Hirosuna who's there. Let me ask you this. We've seen the National Guard move into Santa Monica. Are you also asking for the National Guard to have a presence in Long Beach?
Not at this time, but it's a tool in our toolbox. We have been asking the LA County Sheriff's Department for resources, and we have hundreds of officers that they've sent us, and there's still more coming our way. If for some reason we don't believe we have enough resources, we can absolutely get the National Guard in our city.
I think the heartbreak we're seeing here is that people are pulling up in their cars to 4th and Promenade. They're pulling up in their cars and they're going into businesses and they're just taking handfuls of clothing, so much so that there's no law enforcement there that they can go in 2 and 3 times and come back and load up their car.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a horrible situation, and I'm going to make sure that we get people there as soon as possible.
Why do you think this is happening? What's going on in our society where this is happening, where people think that this is okay?
That's an excellent question, because again, I don't want to mix the criminal behavior that you're describing with individuals who are out here legitimately protesting because there was an injustice done several thousand miles away. And I think it's sad, because at the end of the day, I think there's people who literally want to make positive change. And I've got to tell you, a lot of our employees, our officers on the front line, feel the same way they do. But I'll tell you what, looting, burning cars, destroying property, how does that make any change?
Yeah.
It actually makes most of the people look at this and say, you know what, we're not going to pay attention because this is criminal behavior. Again, I want to emphasize that criminal behavior is a small percentage of all the good people who are out there protesting with their right to, and actually a very good cause.
Do you have enough officers to actually stop this, as we watch multiple different locations where this looting happens with no officers anywhere in sight? We saw in Santa Monica the same thing happen. The National Guard pulled up 4 hours later after everything was already done. Do you have the resources to meet this actual challenge that we're faced with right now?
Well, I believe we do have enough officers on the street, and we're getting more as we're speaking. So we will be able to handle this.
How is that true, though? I mean, you got to. That doesn't match the reality that we're seeing right now.
You know what? I'm not looking at it, and I think it's unfair that you're sitting here. You've asked me the same question over and over. We've got people on the way. It's unacceptable, and I don't think you asking the question over and over is going to make it any better. We're going to get people out there, make sure that we can absolutely handle it. And it is. I could tell you're frustrated, I'm frustrated, and we'll get people out there and hopefully make as many arrests as we can as soon as possible.
Yeah. Chief, let me ask you this question. I don't know if you have the answer to this one. Do you feel like what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what you're hearing, is it people coming from outside, do you hear?
Yes. From what we see and we can hear, there are a lot of people that are not from Long Beach. And as our curfew is at 8 p.m. As we're getting more and more officers in here, we're going to be able to take more effective action and start arresting people. But we haven't verified where everybody's from. But this is absolutely not reflective of the citizens of Long Beach. This is not what Long Beach citizens do.
Well, Chief, Christine and I both are such big fans of Long Beach. We think it's such a great city, and we know you and your officers have done such important work for so many years to build up downtown Long Beach, and I can only imagine what a challenge this is for all of you, and I know we're all frustrated watching this because it is such a challenging time for everybody. We wish you the best of luck tonight. We do appreciate you taking time to talk with us and to talk with our viewers, and all the best as we all try to get through this together.
I appreciate both of you, and yeah, we're all frustrated, and keep on showing it, because I want people to see that this criminal behavior is not going to change anything. But again, we're supporting all of the peaceful protests that are occurring. So thank you for covering it, and I hope your reporters stay safe out there.
Thank you very much, Chief Robert Luna. We appreciate your perspective tonight as we watch the streets of Long Beach. Susan, can you hear us? Do you want to chime in?
Yes. Okay, that was just a nice big firework. We are actually walking away from where we were. We were on Waite and 3rd Street, where the Ross store was, and then at the same time as what was going on with Ross, and you could see, I mean, it's really remarkable. There's just no compunction whatsoever. Here's a guy, he's dragging a suitcase or something, presumably full of material and possessions. Oh, somebody found a television. And at the same time that they made entry into the Ross, they were across the street with a hammer and went into an eyebrow threading store, which I'm not exactly sure what they found there. Maybe that's where the guy got the TV and he just pulled it right off the wall. But it is like a surreal thing. There are so many people who would go in, come out with big smiles on their face, and then take their merchandise, or I guess it was just stuff that they stole, and they'd have people standing by in a car and they would pile it all into the car. And not to blur the narrative here, yes, we want to make a distinction between looters and the protesters, but I did see some protesters who had been holding the signs and had been protesting peacefully. The next thing I know, they were in that store, the Gene Machine store, pulling out shoes. So there's a lot of opportunistic attitudes here. I think there's a lot of mob mentality where people are saying, well, they're doing it, so I'm going to do it. At the same time, I do see other people who are picking up material, you know, the shoe boxes and whatever, and bringing them to me and telling me, yeah, I found this on the street, I'm picking it up. And I go, what are you going to do with it? And he goes, I don't know. I know the owner of Gene Machine, so I'll probably just give it back to him. And he was telling me that he was on the corner and just crying. So meantime, you see here a lot of people, they somehow managed to find bags and boxes, and they've got a bunch of merchandise, stolen merchandise in those bags.
I think what we're seeing is how difficult it is to handle the situation in the many cities and what it takes to mobilize, like we've seen in Santa Monica, where they have restored order per the sheriff. Susan, tell us where you're headed now and what you're seeing on the streets there of Long Beach where you are.
Well, honestly, because we are in the midst of all of this, I find it amazing to me that, Alex, you could be asking the police chief these questions and he doesn't turn on a television to see what's going on or check in with his people. It just blows my mind. Meantime, they did have the police up there, the police helicopter up there, because we could see the light being hit onto the people coming out of that Ross store, and I see it now, as a matter of fact. So I know they have eyes. They have eyes on this situation here in Long Beach. Periodically, you'll hear vehicles, you'll see lights and sirens, but frankly, they didn't come to the area where we were. They just went somewhere else. So there's got to be another hotspot that we are not aware of. But meantime, periodically, it'll be enough for somebody to say the word cop so that they would pour out of the store. But then as soon as it seems as if nobody's coming, then they just go right back in. And, again, there's only so much you can carry, right? So I'm seeing people who have a couple of boxes from the Gene Machine store, and now now we're watching some people run away. Not quite sure what has prompted this. It's like cockroaches.
And you bring up the Gene Machine store, as we talked about, somebody knowing the very owner of that store as a business that tried to provide affordable clothing for the community and to help build up Long Beach and be part of that community.
Let's, as we now hit 8:30, Alex Michelson, Christine Devine, Susan Hirasuna out in the field in Long Beach now. A reminder of some of the headlines, Christine.
Well, we know a curfew is in effect throughout Los Angeles County. If you thought about last night, it went into effect around 8 p.m. Tonight, they opened that up a little bit earlier to 6 p.m. It's been earlier in other parts, like 4 p.m. in Santa Monica. We have seen this widespread looting throughout L.A. County. We're seeing it just now tonight in Long Beach. Earlier today, it was Santa Monica. The National Guard, that's the visual that's going to stick with so many people. The National Guard arriving in our city, arriving in Santa Monica, where they have attempted to restore order. It seems to be calm there tonight. We can't forget that there have been peaceful protests throughout the day. They started in Santa Monica as very peaceful, with people of all races coming together to speak out. But the story of the night really has been the looters. And we have seen some shots of protesters who were out there trying to protect the businesses. And then you saw some who seemed almost to be professional. They were fully wearing black gear, covered up fully with hammers, like they knew what they were doing. They were there for a purpose, that was to break into businesses and cause damage.
Often that is sign of Antifa protesters. Bill Maluzhin, who knows a lot about Antifa protesters, joins us live from Santa Monica. Bill, what are you seeing where you're at now?
Alex, unfortunately, things have not calmed down here in Santa Monica at all. They've just moved inland further, closer to West LA. Let me give you a live look at where we're at right now. This is the intersection of Lincoln and Broadway here, and you can probably hear the store alarms going off in the back room. Almost every single but the Vons right here, got hit. Every business on this corner got hit. We're starting to see more and more business owners out here trying to defend their businesses. Further inland, we saw shades of 1992. There were business owners up on their roofs with rifles. There were other business owners standing in front of their businesses with rifles as well. They see what's happening out here. These protesters are moving further inland to the West LA areas, almost. Okay, we're pulling up those photos right now. Again, this was about an hour ago. We passed by these businesses, and you can see the owners out front with rifles and up on their roofs. They see what's happening. They know police can't be everywhere at once, and they're taking their safety and their business's livelihood into their own hands right now. And again, this was famous back in 1992. We all know about the Koreans on the rooftop. Police resources were just spread too thin. That's what's starting to happen out here. Over by the 3rd Street Promenade area, that's where all the action was in Santa Monica today. But unfortunately, everything, that guy just yelled, he got him some Gucci. He got him some Gucci. So they're bragging about it out here, guys. They're bragging about it. They think they're having a great time.
Be proud. Look, that guy looks like he's about 17 years old, too. Where's his mother?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. But the further inland you go, you just see people walking around. You know, some of them have little tools in their hands, and they're just looking in windows, waiting to break in. And almost every other business has a broken window, or it's tagged, or they're just kind of splintering up into smaller groups and having free reign. And I feel bad because, you know, we don't want to. They're just so overwhelmed right now. They don't have enough resources. The sheriff's deputies are going.
And it's
the sheriff's deputies are going up and down the streets.
Look at that. Look at that.
Ball at my face when they walk by. So,
but Bill,
these people out here, they don't care. We're filming them live, and nobody out here cares. They're just like, it's just so in your face. I've never seen it like this before. Everybody going by just flips us off.
What is so frustrating is
these guys are boarding up.
It's okay for the police to admit that they are outnumbered. When I was talking to the police chief, he said, no, we do have enough officers. It's okay for them to admit the truth, which seems to be, no, they don't. Because if they did have more officers, we would not be seeing scenes like this. And number two, this makes me so frustrated, and I'm sure it makes you frustrated, Bill, and you, Christine. There are so many legitimate protesters with legitimate messages that are out there for the right reason, to talk about systemic inequality, to talk about racism, to talk about classism. And yet these folks don't care about any of that. They are selfish criminals who are stealing from society and completely diluting everything that all those people are trying to do. And they are proud of it. And it is disgusting, Bill.
It absolutely is, and it's so in your face. And you're right. I mean, I was out here in Santa Monica earlier today when they had that peaceful protest going up and down Ocean. I went and I took a look at it because I live nearby. There was nothing wrong with that protest. Everybody was very peaceful. There was nothing wrong. And then it seemed like a separate group of instigators used that because the media and the police were distracted by that peaceful protest. And then they went to 3rd Street Promenade when nobody was looking, and they hit Santa Monica Place, and that's what sparked all of the looting.
Yeah.
Yeah, opportunists. And yeah.
Bill, we're going to check in with Christina Gonzalez, who's been in downtown LA for us. Christina, it looks like we have protesters there on the move.
Well, no, actually, you have protesters being arrested right now.
Okay.
They did declare
an order, and what you're seeing right now is Metro. Behind the line are people who sat down and refused to move from City Hall, and you can see that there's a woman here being arrested. As they arrest them and they process them, I'm going to show you which way they're going. Let me take a step, and over here we have another one. And so far the arrests have been pretty peaceful. A few people were not happy about it, but they were told they had been given an order to disperse and a way out, and when they didn't, now you see them behind me over here, and this is how Metro does it. They actually surround the people little by little behind these officers, and this is the way they're bringing the protesters out. But behind the group of officers, they will little by little move in on them. And I'll show you that as soon as we show you this arrest. They're using the ties, and you can see that some of them look like just protesters, which is what they are. I do have to say that a few times there were a couple of M80s that were thrown at police and some of the police cars. None of the police cars were damaged. But other than that, it really is a refusal to leave at this point and to move on. We talked to some of the people about why they refuse to move. We might be able to show you that a little bit later. But as of right now, I've counted 30 people. So far, there's about possibly 20 more over there. But yeah, this is downtown Los Angeles in front of City Hall. This was the crowd that you saw earlier, refusing to move and kind of going up to the barricades. And this is a statement they wanted to make. What they will be charged with, we don't know at this point. Failure to disperse to begin with. But we'll see. We'll see what the process is going to be, especially right now with the situation with the courts and so forth. They might cite them and let them leave. But I don't know at this point, to be honest with you, because I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about that. But
we're looking at an aerial shot
live
right
in
now.
downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah, we're looking at an aerial.
If you look at the aerial shot, and you might be able to see, because they actually were incredibly effective at dispersing the crowd into two segments. There are the people here in front of City Hall at Spring Street, but towards Pershing Square, a second group separated and went that way. And that is where the rest of the units followed them and were planning on making some arrests. Those people moved away when the order to disperse came in, but they also went towards Pershing Square, and that's when we started hearing some of the M80s. So there was also a scene going on there. Although at one point they were actually letting them go past a scene that there was an investigation on a shooting, which may have had nothing to do with protesters. So it was kind of weird. But again, the main scene right now in downtown Los Angeles is the arrest going on, and that's, I believe, number 38, of people in front of City Hall. Peaceful arrest, but arrest nevertheless for a group of protesters who would not leave. I'm Christina Gonzalez, live in downtown Los Angeles. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you later what these people said before they were arrested. Back to you.
All right, we go from the ground to the air. Tevin Takumi is in Skyfox.
Yeah, we've been watching this group here that's been walking through downtown Los Angeles. Right now they're turning, looks like they're turning northbound on Los Angeles Street from 9th. They've kind of been zigzagging around here. LAPD is trying to get a lot of their mobile force units into position and try to box them in and then arrest all of them they're talking about because they're violating that curfew. The problem they're having too is that they have a bunch of cars that are also following them as well. So they need to try to be able to get their mobile force units in there and try to cut off those cars that have been following this group around here. But you can see the airships above here. They're trying to get their units in position here. They also were keeping an eye on that crime scene that was off to the west of here that they once again were kind of protecting, that was on Hill and Olympic down below there for that fatal shooting that happened down there. But right now they are just following this crowd. They're trying to get their mobile field units into position here so they can take, like they're saying they want to take all of these people into custody.
All right, Kevin, thank you. As we watch this picture from your aerial downtown, we check in with Phil Schuman, who's now in a vehicle checking out what's happening in Santa Monica. Phil, you brought us such amazing coverage there in Santa Monica. How is it looking tonight, almost 9 p.m. here?
Well, it's very tense. We're rolling on Lincoln at Santa Monica. Right in front of us, a Sheriff's Department mobile field force. They're moving aggressively in conjunction with the LAPD and Santa Monica PD and making arrests. We've seen them chasing people who could be looters across the street. We just saw them take several people into custody at a gas station at Lincoln and Santa Monica. And the sounds of sirens and helicopters still pretty much fill the air here in Santa Monica. We thought things had calmed down a little bit when they started making those arrests as darkness fell a couple of hours ago, but now things have escalated again with just this huge amount of law enforcement presence after dark.
Wow. What an eerie night here in our community. Another day of protests that have spread now from just really to so many different parts of our community. Santa Monica, Long Beach. Last night it was so volatile in the Fairfax district. And then also in Santa Ana, where we haven't checked in a while. So Rick Lozano's there on the ground. Rick, what is the scene there in Santa Ana, also under curfew?
Well, let's begin by saying that the crowds have dwindled considerably since our last report earlier this afternoon. We're at the corner of Flower and Santa Ana Boulevard. There is a curfew that will go into effect here in Santa Ana starting at 10 o'clock tonight and run until 5:30 tomorrow. Now, this area was the scene of some ugly behavior on the part of protesters last night. A lot of damage to businesses, a lot of looting that went on. There were 5 arrests as a result of all of that. The scene was replete with protesters hurling rocks and throwing fireworks at police, and police, of course, responding with tear gas and rubber bullets. That was last night. So far, none of that has happened tonight, as protesters have behaved themselves in a very respectful manner, and police in kind have returned the favor. Now, as we look over to our right, you can see a large skirmish line here formed by some 30 to 40 Santa Ana police officers, and in the extreme background, there are more officers waiting in case they are needed. This was a much larger gathering earlier this afternoon. In fact, as they marched through the streets of Santa Ana, I'm guesstimating there could have been as many as 2,000 protesters involved in that march. Now, at this location, and we're not certain whether there could be other locations throughout Santa Ana, but at this location, the crowd is down to maybe 150 or 200 protesters. Again, they have behaved themselves very peacefully, very respectfully, and they're receiving the same kind of treatment from Santa Ana police. So far, no misbehavior here to report. Again, the curfew goes into effect at 10 p.m., so we'll see what happens when the clock strikes that hour. For now, we're live in Santa Ana. We're going to send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Rick Lozano, thank you much in Santa Ana. We are joined now by phone as we look at downtown L.A. by City Councilman Joe Buscaino. And Councilman, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Christine, Alex.
All right, so I wanted to ask you your perspective as a councilman and also a former LAPD officer. What are your thoughts as you look right now at downtown LA?
Just disheartening. As you know, Christine, and you and I have done some great work with LAPD in the past. I mean, just by viewing what I see here on Fox 11, it's safe to say we need more National Guardsmen to protect this region, and potentially even look at a 24-hour stay-at-home curfew just to take a breather.
What do you think?
It's just mind-boggling just to see there's so much anger and frustration. I don't know. It's talking more of. Are we talking about a race war here or a class war? I mean, the peaceful protests are being taken over in our region by violent criminals, and they need to be held accountable. The time of citing and releasing looters should be over with. We need to book them and keep them in jail.
Can that happen? I mean, can that change be made immediately? What's the process? Because I think there's a lot of people watching that agree with you saying that. We've been hearing that over and over again from law enforcement, their frustration with that policy.
I believe based on the COVID-19, our county jails, right now we're not taking any folks in on misdemeanor offenses. But, I mean, if we're reopening our economy and opening restaurants and businesses, I think we ought to start opening our county jails moving forward to keep these folks accountable. Because as of right now, clearly, even what Phil Schumann reported, that a looter was just given a ticket. I mean, so there's just no accountability. We'll continue to see this unless there's accountability. At the same time, we need to take a step back and talk about ways to have these dialogues between these folks. But clearly, you know, in Watts yesterday, I'm really proud of my South Los Angeles communities. We had a peaceful march in Watts yesterday. Today at Trump National Golf Course, we had a peaceful protest. So what we're seeing is clearly different ways of diverse opinions on these injustices. We're seeing damages in the millions, what we saw last night on Fairfax and Melrose. So it's important for us to continue to have this reestablishment and open dialogue and bring peace to our city and our region.
And we're looking live at pictures of Long Beach right now, which is right near your district, of course, in San Pedro.
Yep.
What do you think is going on?
Let me just say this. You and I, we've been at the Watts Bears
Yep.
and just watched the community-based policing relationships. We've come such a long way, specifically in Watts and South Los Angeles. And as a police officer, senior lead officer, we've seen the amount of work that we've come a long way. You know, when the fact that we have a police department now that is working hard, and it tears my heart to see rocks and bottles and the graffiti of folks having a hard time and just terrorizing our cops. I'm just frustrated. Last night, 10 cop cars burned, 70 cop cars damaged. At which point do we say enough is enough?
Well, and for people that don't know, the Watts Bears, which are now known as the Watts Rams, was a program that was brought into place after the LA riots to help enhance community relations. So these are LAPD officers that are coaches of a youth football team, to get to know them, to train strong young men from early on. They're a very successful program. The LA Rams have now adopted them, and you and I both have been volunteering with them for years and worked together on that. What is going on, though? What do you think societally has failed to lead to this point? Because is it a failure of governmental leadership? Is it a failure of moral leadership in the churches and religious? Is it a failure of parenting? I mean, because we are now at a point, is it a failure of capitalism, income inequality? We are at a point where there are a significant number of people that feel that this is not only okay, they're proud of it. They're celebrating it. They're posting it on social media. They don't care who sees them on camera. How did we get here?
It's destruction. You know, and the mayor pointed it out earlier today, a lot of folks have been pent up because of the COVID-19 pandemic. 30 million people are unemployed. We need to acknowledge that. But by these actions, folks need to get back to work tomorrow. And by the looting, they're not going to be able to get back to work and put food on their tables. So we go back to back to Minneapolis, what took place with George. And as a police officer, those officers all need to be booked and be held accountable. We know that. I was not ever trained in the academy to do what that officer did to George. Bottom line.
We are looking right now at a business that has been just looted in Santa Monica. This is inside video of all of the damage. Let me ask you this. As we one day get through this chapter, this looting, this rioting, how long does it take to pick up and clean up? Where do you start to rebuild?
Well, we took a lesson in 1992 with the uprising in South Los Angeles. And the fact that now as city leaders, state leaders, we definitely need to turn to our federal government to really get our economy back and running. But we also need to talk about the fact that, you know, we had days of dialogues, and something that's been in my DNA as a senior lead officer, as you both know, the importance of showing the heart behind the badge. And we've come a long way again. there's a difference here, guys, between anarchism and advocacy.
Right.
I mean, are we advocating for social justice, or are we going to just cause havoc and hell in our region?
And
there's a difference here.
I just want to ask real quickly as we wrap things up, how are we going to be able to afford this? Well, we were facing a just budget free-fall disaster because of COVID-19, and now this.
Right.
Where is the money going to come from to even pick up the pieces?
Well, again, in a natural disaster uprising such as this, what we've seen is no different than, leaning on the relief from FEMA and the federal government to make up for these significant losses for our businesses. I mean, my heart pours for these small businesses. These are the backbone of our economy, of our small businesses, and these knucklehead thugs are coming in and out of these, damaging these businesses. It's unacceptable. Let's hold these people accountable. Let's book them and put them in jail and keep them, because right now all we're doing is citing and releasing them.
All right, Councilman Joe Buscaino, LA City. We know how much that you do love this city and being a part of the city. I thank you so much for taking time to call in. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me.
It looks like things are heating up a little bit in downtown LA.
Yeah, it looks like people are there on the move, and you often see something like that when police are moving in. All right, Kevin Takumi, go ahead and tell us what you see here over downtown LA.
Yeah, we're tracking this group that's going through downtown LA. The LAPD has been trying to get their ground units into position, but the air unit's been trying to guide those ground units into it. But they just haven't been able to get ahead of them here. Mobile field units are kind of not getting there fast enough to the intersections that the air unit's going to. So they start running, and right now we're on 8th or 7th, coming up to San Pedro here. So, right now they're running, whenever a black and white shows up, they start running. So they're trying to move them, they're trying to move their units ahead to get into there. But we're getting into 6th and San Pedro. So he's trying to get units in there, but it's too late. But they're starting to get into the Skid Row area here. And the crowd, they haven't been breaking anything or doing things like that. They've just been moving around really fast. Just whenever a black and white shows up, they start running in different directions. But this is the main group. It's about 150 to 200 people and moving together. And there's actually about 10 cars that are following with the group. They've been hanging out the windows here and just kind of following with the group here and kind of pushing them, egging them on and whatnot. So, and doing donuts in the street as they go along. But now they're going to turn northbound on San Pedro here. And once again, the air unit's trying to get some ground units into the north of them. They want to pinch this off, and they want to block them in and get them and try to take them into custody.
I'm going to cut you off, my friend. We're going to go back to Susan Hirasuna in Long Beach, where there's breaking developments. Susan.
All right, so we are back at the intersection where we were at previously, where you saw all those people flood into the Gene Machine, and you see how the situation has changed drastically, dramatically, thanks to the fact that there is now police presence here. And what's really remarkable is that while we were watching people make entry into the Ross store, and you were talking to the chief of police, now we've seen an unmarked car go by that we believe is the chief of police, who's getting here a little on the late side, frankly. But he may be finally seeing what you were talking about that whole time, Alex. And you see here quite the show of force, and yet all those people that were here previously when we were here, they're all now gone. We had to go back to the microvan in order to get a battery so that we could stay up and live for you. But you can see now that it is a completely different scene. We were told to turn back multiple times. We kept telling them we're media, and we have a right to come here and document what is going on, especially since this is such a complete different scene than the way it was just, an hour or so ago, when it just seemed like beyond lawlessness, where people had no problems at all coming into this area, running into the store and coming out with armful of stuff. And what's odd is that you can see all of the debris that's left over from that. I see a single shoe in the middle of the street, middle of the sidewalk, and plenty of boxes and bags and things that are apparently empty and not really just more evidence that people were here, and they just ransacked and took stuff out of the boxes and then tucked them away or threw them into cars and got away. Meantime, we still hear that sound of shattering glass. So just standing on the corner, I hear the sound of someone knocking on something, and I'm thinking, and I'm looking at that person, and the window was already broken, and what was inside was a little bit of, like baby chairs. So, I mean, I have no idea why he decided that he wanted to do that. Okay, so we are being told that we need to back up a little bit away from the police officers. They're being fairly polite about this, but it's interesting. It's odd because some sergeants will tell me you can be here and others will say no, back up. And I actually had two police officers kind of in an argument on what was the right of the media to be where we were. One sergeant, one commanding officer said, yeah, they can be here. And then another with the same rank said, no, she cannot. So again, back to what we were saying, a couple of hours ago before the sun went down, sometimes when they know you, the first sergeant knew me and said, Susan, I want you to stand right here. And then the next guy said, no, you can't be here at all. So it was a bit confusing, to say the least. So,
Susan, I want to ask you a question about the crowds that were there just a short time ago, and now you see this, the calm. My question is, do they just move to another neighborhood, another shopping area, or do they go home? And you may not even have the answer, but that's my concern here, that you see the calm and quiet here, but where did the crowd go?
Well, what I observed, so yeah, you're right, I don't 100% know for sure, but what I observed is that every once in a while there'd be this big exodus, like, you come across a flock of birds and they take off. And it was something like that, where all of a sudden someone must have said something and they all come running out of the store. Now, if they saw a police vehicle, at one point we saw a police vehicle in the distance, but they never made entry to this location where we are right now. And but that was enough to sort of quell some of the looting. But then because that vehicle didn't move, then people went back to it. People went back into the Gene Machine. People continued down and towards the Ross, and we witnessed them breaking the window, the upper window, and then they realized that it was going to be fairly easy to get in. It just took a matter of time, and so then they kept kicking and kicking the plywood until they were finally able to make entry. We watched people go in, we watched people come out with bags, luggage of stuff, and then across the street they went into a eyebrow threading salon. So I'm going to send it back to you, but yeah, the short answer is people, it's like herding cats. We don't know for sure where they went.
All right, it is now 9 o'clock, and welcome to a special edition of the Fox 11 News.
People for various charges, including looting. Back to you guys.
Okay, well, the police are doing what they can. They're arresting people when they can, but as you can see, there are a lot of places they need to be, and they just can't be everywhere. They're looting these opioids that they're not, as she pointed out, it's not money, but it's opioids or whatever that the pharmacy would keep in a safe like that. It's just as good as money for people who are intent on selling that stuff. I learned something about these sneakers yesterday, that Top Flight what was it? One store on La Brea that was looted yesterday, and like people are stealing shoes out of there, and there's a whole market where they're for this kind of high-end sneakers that are worth thousands of dollars.
Yes. And also a lot of rioting and looting tonight. Alex.
Good evening. I'm Alex Michelson with Christine Devine. We remain on the air as we follow this dramatic news night. Los Angeles County curfew now in effect. We have seen widespread looting throughout LA County. Some of the areas that have seen it the worst are Santa Monica and Long Beach. We have seen arrests being made in downtown LA. We've also seen arrests being made in Santa Monica to try to enforce that curfew. We have not seen widespread arrests of these looters, at least not yet. The National Guard is here in Southern California. We have seen National Guard tanks now in the streets in Santa Monica, which have helped in some ways to quell that situation there. And we should also point out that we have had peaceful protests throughout the day that continue to raise legitimate questions about systemic racism and income inequality that are at the root of the George Floyd story. But at the same time, we have seen lawlessness and anarchy on the streets of Southern California tonight, and that continues. For whatever reason, there is a significant group of people that feel like it is okay to break into whatever store that they can find and take somebody else's property as their own. We are seeing it over and over again. And what's been especially upsetting throughout this night, Christine, is how many people seem to be proud of the fact that they are able to do this.
Well, we've gotten some pretty good interviews from our reporter Susan Hirosuna on the scene, where we said, please ask some of these people who are looting right in front of you, why are they looting? Why are they going into these businesses? And she got some answers that shed some light on their perspective. We are live over downtown LA right now. The question is, how does tonight play out? What happens now that it is dark outside? Do we see what we saw last night? Let's pray not. It was a difficult, painful, devastating, heartbreaking night in the Fairfax district of Los Angeles. So Kevin Dakumi, you're overhead in Skyfox in downtown LA. Tell us what you're seeing here.
Yeah, LAPD trying to round up this group here of about 200 people that were walking in, marching through downtown LA. And once it got to 8 o'clock and the curfew took effect, they started trying to move in and try to arrest this group. Now they've been running through here as they've been trying to get their mobile foil forces in to try to arrest all these. They're also trying to get a hold of these cars here that are following with the group. They've been making donuts in the intersections and almost hitting a few other cars that were passing through the area. So they're trying to contain this situation as best they can. This is the only group that is walking around through downtown LA at this point. That's the latest over at Skybox. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Kevin, thank you. You know, every time there is darkness, Christine, it makes things seem more intense and sort of amplifies the seriousness of this moment and the danger of this moment for certain people. I'm sorry, guys, where are we heading next? We're going soon to Susan Hirosuna, who is in Long Beach right now. Susan.
Ellis, we're back on that corner, Wade and 4th Street, where we brought you all of that looting at the Gene Machine store. And what is left over is kind of remarkable. Now that the police are here, there's no people here at all, no residents or looters or protesters or whatever were filling the streets earlier. But it's so odd to see what is left over. There are so many of these things like empty shoe boxes that are just strewn about, and all kinds of odd merchandise, like right here. Carlos, if you can come back to me. So apparently perhaps a CVS or a Rite Aid. So there's a bottle of biotin. There's a bunch of supplements on the ground. There's a little pair of shoes over there. Not quite sure if those are the new shoes that got stolen and then somebody realized they were much too small that they could ever wear them. But this place is just a mess, and we're just talking about the intersection outside the store. Imagine what it looks like inside the store. Now, I'm recognizing that these are the same police officers that were at the intersection that we were at initially with the protesters that were being fairly peaceful. Meantime, you see here, we've got some people heading towards the police. They're being told to turn back around. And so it looks as if they're going away. But these are the same police that were at the intersection of 3rd and Pacific. And now they are at this location, keeping this location quiet and safe. But it is, again, another surreal scene here. Alex, Christine.
Susan, we're going to interrupt you. We're going to go to a press conference that is happening right now. This is in the city of Santa Monica.
I want to personally thank those neighboring cities and communities that stepped up to support us, and our first responders here who are caring for this community as they do every day. To our Santa Monica community, I want to say that we are here for you. We are restoring this community to be the one that you know and love, and we will continue to do this and return it to the compassionate and just city that respects everyone and all of our residents and businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem O'Day. I would now like to welcome up our police chief, Cynthia Renaud, for an update from our Santa Monica Police Department.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I apologize, a little awkward, empty room here. So I'll do my best to deliver some information and answer what I think your questions are. So we did have National Guard response and arrival shortly before 8 p.m., and that has been a dramatic impact here in the city. They are securing the areas that we have already secured and taken care of, which is allowing us to move our
they were marching up and down Ocean Boulevard, across Alamitos Beach, throughout the downtown, many with signs meeting this moment of anxiety, of injustice, and marching, of course, for George Floyd and the killing that happened that we're all in such pain over. But within a few hours, that peaceful protest turned into something much deadlier, much more violent, and much more dark. What is occurring right now in our city is both heartbreaking and should anger us. The violence, the looting, that is not justice, and that is not peaceful protest. What is happening goes against the values of one of the most diverse cities in our country. I love Long Beach. We love Long Beach. And those that are perpetrating against our city and causing crime and destruction should be ashamed of themselves. I want to let everybody know that we have here tonight, I've got our chief of police, our fire chief, and our city manager who are going to be giving some updates on what we're doing as we go into this evening tonight. We know that the curfew is in effect and people should be at home. You are safest at home, so please, please stay home. What I saw tonight and the type of vandalizing that was happening was unacceptable. I saw the Crest Market, a small mom and pop grocery store owned by two hardworking immigrants that came to this country, that put everything they had into their small bodega and market. I saw that being attacked tonight. Most of these businesses that you're seeing across the city are mom and pop small businesses. People need to focus on what's important, and it's keeping everyone safe tonight. I want to let everybody know that earlier today, we have been working all day, not just with other agencies, but as also the state, to ensure the safety of our community. I had a conversation earlier today with Governor Newsom. The National Guard has been deployed and they are on their way to the city of Long Beach. And we have gone through the process, which happened earlier, of asking for the Guard's support. The Guard, as you know, has a statewide mission. And it's not only in Long Beach where they are currently doing their work. We also not only have our entire Long Beach Police Department and our fire department out trying to take care of the city, but also have other agencies and other policing agencies here as well assisting us. And to all of them tonight, we say thank you, and please also stay safe. It's important for folks to know that right now people need to take care of each other. And we have a lot of important information to share with you this evening. I want to begin by asking our city manager to say a few words, and also then our chief of police, Robert Luna. Tom Modica, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this afternoon, under the power of the city charter as city manager, I declared an emergency, and we have also instituted an emergency curfew as of 8 p.m. tonight, and that is currently in effect all the way through 5 a.m. in the morning. We will reevaluate that curfew and extend it if needed. While the city supports peaceful assembly and free speech, we cannot tolerate destruction of property, looting, or violence. For the safety of everyone in the community, including our first responders, business owners, protesters, and residents, we've enacted this curfew to keep everyone safe. This is an extraordinary time in our city. Let me take a moment just to say, I know you are all frustrated. We are all frustrated. We are angry and heartbroken over the tragic death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. But we urge everybody in the city and the entire region to abide by the curfew and to remain calm. We do know, as the mayor mentioned, that most people who assembled in Long Beach today did so peacefully and were airing their grievances in their First Amendment right, and we thank you for that. So while our Long Beach community is known for its willingness to support each other, especially during this challenging times, we challenge you to do exactly that. We've been through very tough times in the past. We will get through this one as well. Let's work together and make Long Beach safer for everyone. And so we have all of our emergency systems deployed. We have everyone out there working. City crews are together, working as hard as we possibly can. But it is an incredibly tough situation. I'd like to bring up our police chief, Robert Luna, to talk through what is going on out there and the process as well for asking for assistance, which we have been doing since earlier today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Mr. City Manager. Today's a sad day here in our city. To see what's occurring around us, it is heartbreaking. But I want to tell everybody that lives in the city that we have an extensive amount of police officers out in our community. And we are bouncing around from call to call. We're trying to handle as much as we possibly can. Deploying officers, like I said earlier, all over the city, but specifically in our downtown area. Please know that as we as a police department saw a lot of the civil unrest around the country, we as a police department started to prepare. We wanted to make sure that our training, our equipment, that our staffing was going to be up for whatever came our way. We were standing ready. In the last couple of days, as a matter of fact, yesterday, we augmented our staffing. We had more staffing in. We actually sent several dozen officers to the city of Los Angeles to assist them because Long Beach wasn't impacted. But tonight, we were impacted. Typically on a Sunday, we have our normal staffing. And because we had a scheduled protest at our police station tonight, we actually quadrupled the number of officers in the city, specifically around the downtown area. As the mayor stated earlier, we had several thousand protesters that showed up to the front of the police station and then marched around the downtown area. As they marched, they were joined by hundreds and then eventually became thousands of other people. Within that hour, our officers, our command staff that was running this event, made a decision to contact the Emergency Operations Bureau from LA County Sheriffs, and we immediately asked for mutual aid. What that basically means is that we summons police officers from around the county, the region, and the state. Immediately, we were sent several dozen officers to us, and right away we ended up asking for more officers. Eventually, we had what we call multiple platoons. I'm not going to get into specific numbers, but several hundred additional officers to augment the hundreds of Long Beach officers we had here. As the protests grew, and they grew violent, unfortunately, we continue to make requests for resources. Once the county said the resources were expended, that's when the National Guard was requested. That request went in here in the last hour, and we were advised that the National Guard is en route to Long Beach to assist the Long Beach Police Department and all the other officers who are currently assisting us. And as I talk about these other officers, these are officers that are coming from different communities, so I really want to reach out and say thank you for helping our city. You've really helped us a lot. I know we're seeing some very disturbing images on TV. And to be honest with you, I hope they disturb you. They're very much disturbing us. We've gotten inquiries from the media. How could you let this looting occur? It's irritating to watch people go into stores and basically break into them and steal the items. Yes, steal. They're not theirs. There's no reason to do this. And this is what's sad. When we planned for this protest today, we planned for a large group of protesters to come here and express their First Amendment rights and express their anger in a positive way with the loss of life with George Floyd. I've written about this earlier. I'm upset about it. And here's the sad part. Every police officer at the Long Beach Police Department that I've spoken to is also very upset about the way that George Floyd died. And we're out here trying to facilitate a peaceful protest. And I'm going to say about 80% of the people are doing the right thing. Blocking the streets, signs, yelling, that's okay. What's not okay is you had individuals who came into the group and started to vandalize vehicles, throw items at police officers, and they're the ones who started breaking away, went down into our Pike area and started to break windows and start looting stores. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not the way you make a point. How does that, how do we celebrate the life of George Floyd or even talk about his tragic death when you have people committing crimes? That's not what we're going to tolerate. And as the evening goes on, we are going to get control of our streets. People are going to go to jail. We're going to enforce this curfew that'll go on until this event is over. And we will bring peace back to Long Beach. I promise you that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my partner, the fire chief. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Manager. I just wanted to take a moment to let you know exactly what we're doing in the fire department. We've received a number of questions about how we prepare for something like this. And first and foremost, I can tell you that the tragic incident that occurred in Minneapolis many days ago has affected us all adversely, and has affected our city, obviously, and it's still going on around us. What I want to portray to you is the pride that I have in the men and women of the Long Beach Fire Department and the police department and